as a ceremony.
Drama was witnessed at the Law Society of Kenya offices after police officers forced open the offices that had been locked up by LSK President Nelson Havi. Havi says the police violated the law as he had written a letter to their boss requesting that suspended members not be allowed to access the offices.
Kuna wafanyikazi watatu ambao walitimuliwa. Wameenda mahakamani kuzuia kwamba wasitimuliwe. Mahakama imesema hapana, nyinyi mmetimuliwa. Lakini sasa maafisa wa polisi wamekuja wamevunja mlango na wamewaruhusu hao maafisa wanne waliotimuliwa kazini waingia hata. Madhumuni yao kwa msingi ni kuleta vurugu.
It's believed that Harvey locked the premises due to another misunderstanding with LSK CEO Mercy Wambua. Here's Mercy Wambua.
Last year, there were attempts to get me out of office. The council ruled against that. 9 out of 13 council members reinstated me to office, but this did not go well with the president of the Law Society of Kenya, who proceeded to issue me with a letter of termination, notwithstanding the fact that a decision had been taken by the board to reinstate me to work.
The society has in the past couple of weeks been faced with leadership wrangles. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us to assert our will.
When the legislature are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Judicial is Jeshi la Wokovu?
I can't say it very well.
And everyone knows.
SpiceFM. Nyeri.
Streets in Nairobi are a little bit slippery this morning because of that rain that happened overnight and little parts, certain parts of this morning. So we are looking at some traffic that's already building up around the Bunyala Road roundabout, Uhuru Highway there and going into the city. Everything else doesn't seem to have picked up just yet. A little bit of traffic at the Kamkunji roundabout as well. This Wednesday morning, smack dab in the middle of the week. From all indications, it doesn't look like it'll be too crazy. But remember, the roads are slippery, so we must be careful and we will probably see traffic slowing down as the minutes tick by. But for now, it doesn't look too bad in any areas in which we're looking at it. Let us know what it does look like in your neck of the woods this morning, just in case you get stuck or you find a good route that nobody has found yet. Let us know. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
What day is it today? It is Wednesday, is it not?
Wednesday.
Yes. It is Wednesday.
Yeah.
Very good morning to you, and how are you doing? Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, 11th day of August 2021. Wherever you're tuned in, Karibu Sana. Eric Latif, Nduwoko, and Siti Muga are here for Kenya's biggest conversation. Siti, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, my brother.
Very good.
Are you well?
I am very well, thank you.
How is the weather treating you?
The weather is doing me what the weather does.
Yes. And there are these people in whose house you live. How are they doing?
Wow.
Those ones?
Yes.
Those ones, when I saw them, they were fine.
The owners.
Yeah.
When
I saw them.
You see, we are fortunate. We have an owner with us here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Madam Owner.
Madam Owner.
How are you?
I am fine, thank you.
How are your tenants?
Good morning. They're behaving and keeping things...
where they should be kept.
Yes.
Are they using them well?
Well, that's another conversation for another day.
No issues of repairs to be done yet?
They are. But, tuta, shugulikia.
Okay. Okay.
How are you?
Who?
You, Eric, you.
Hiya.
Hello.
Oh.
I'm just throwing greetings up into there.
Like I told City, I'm fine.
And I'm asking you, tell me.
I am very well, thank you.
Fantastic.
Good to hear from you.
Same here, man.
And good to see you. Yes.
Human greetings are actually very interesting, aren't they?
Yes.
Why?
Well, in the absence of the back and forth, a lot of it is monosyllabic. But it carries a lot of meaning. How are you? Fine. And so, and all that is very meaningful. And after that banter, that exchange, you feel like, yes, you've been greeted and you have greeted and all is well.
Because somebody really wants to know, or you think that somebody really wants to know how you're doing.
Early in the morning, they do. Midday, they're not really asking you to give them a history of your life.
What are they doing at midday?
They're being polite.
It's just being polite.
How are you doing? Polite.
So
you say,
don't
fine,
start stories.
and continue. Yesterday. No. Because by midday, all the things you thought you had left behind the day before have caught up with you.
Caught up with you.
So you don't have time to banter yet,
no.
you know.
Especially from somebody who's very cheerful. Because by midday, you are not cheerful.
You're not cheerful. You're done. You're done with the day.
Welcome to the conversation. We'll have a lot to discuss today. So there's even an issue about the campaign financing regulations. Parliament is saying, what? Now we need to hear what that what is.
Yeah, it's actually interesting, but let them keep voting. Yes.
Nee. But in terms of COVID and COVID in numbers,
okay,
I've seen an early morning, was it late night post by the former governor of Nairobi City County. You remember his name?
Mike Mbuvi Sonko.
That one. He posted, he was taking one of his close staff around Nairobi looking for a bed on COVID hospitalization. So he's posted and saying, guys, we have gone to all these main hospitals. We ended up finding a hospital in, was it Roy? That they found a hospital, and yes, the guy was admitted. And according to the video, it's a very nice looking hospital. But he's saying this is where we could find a bed in the middle of the night. And this is Sonko with all those ambulances and everything just in tow.
You would think that he'd be able to get in anywhere.
Yep.
Not so. It's not looking very good. If we look at global numbers and then trickle down to what's happening here, 204,776,810. When we had this same conversation exactly a week ago today, numbers in the world were at 201 million. Over the last 7 days, the world COVID cases have increased by 3 million. This has not happened in the last 3 months since we saw the heavy spike that came out of countries like Brazil, India. So we are looking at, an increase in the number of COVID-19 cases around the world. It's not a very comforting issue right now. Those numbers are not looking good at all. 3.7 million actually in 7 days, whereby we had been able to get numbers close to under 1 million in the same period of time over the last 1.5 months. It does look like, things are not good. The Delta variant having now contributed to this quite so. let's look at what's happening in Kenya. The exact same number, and I thought this was interesting. 1,318 recover as 1,183. So the same numbers have been shoved around. Well, not have been, but it just happens to be. 1,318 recovered and are sent home. But 1,183 test positive for COVID-19 yesterday. This is double the number that we had seen the day before. It is not looking good. 14.5% is what we're looking at. The positivity rate yesterday, it was at 12.7, and it is increasing steadily. We're also seeing that still children being affected, and young children at that, infants between 3 months and 2 years old being infected with COVID-19. We're also still seeing the push from government that civil servants be given up until the 23rd only. So today is what? The 11th of August. They only have 12 days to get vaccinated, all of them. Otherwise,
who are these?
Civil servants.
How many are we talking about?
Well, let's look at that story. And they've been given up to the 23rd to take the COVID jab or face disciplinary action. All right. Now, if we look at the specifics in terms of numbers, just give me a second. The government has ordered all civil servants to be vaccinated in 2 weeks or risk disciplinary action. Head of Civil Service Joseph Kinwa said a state officer had deliberately avoided getting vaccinated so they can stay at home, negatively affecting service delivery. In terms of numbers of civil servants that we're looking at, it did not give us this.
Well, the civil servants are more than 1 million.
It's true.
So maybe let's just say that it's a certain percentage of the civil servants that had only received the vaccine the first time. Let's put that at 40%. So we have about 600,000 people, or let's just come even down to half a million civil servants have not received the COVID vaccine. How many vaccines do we have in the country today?
Currently, I think we're teetering around 400,000. But if we look at the combinations of those that came in, some came in from the UK, some came in from the greater European Union, some came in from the ones that came in then from DR Congo, interestingly enough. So we're looking at about 400,000.
DR Congo has sent?
They did.
When?
It was a while ago. It was
that
about
was
2
good
months.
time.
Yeah.
In fact, I think they didn't even come. It's the Sudanese ones that came.
So combination of all of that is about 400,000 vaccines that then came in and then were being dispersed. We're still waiting for the around 5 million cumulatively that were going to come in again from AU contributions and COVAX facility, the Covishield, right? So that's still waited for. And then those that the government has purchased, the 10 plus 3 million, which would come to 13 million, which is what is also being expected in the month of August. But again, we are still waiting. We do not know. And alarm as COVID infections spike in rural areas now is what we are looking at from the ministry. Is that, now they're worried. Again.
This is why I'm sticking to that issue, all right? So head of civil service, Dr. Francis Joseph Kinwa says, civil servants will be prioritized in the ongoing vaccination exercise, and they have until the 23rd of August, which is next week. Now, that's what I'm saying. How many are we talking about? Because it starts by saying in a recent NSAC meeting, it was reported that there was a very low uptake of COVID vaccine among public servants, especially the security sector, teachers, and the core civil service. This is against a background of access to vaccines having greatly improved, especially among these groups. So, if not many civil servants, even in these critical areas, went for the vaccine, we are talking about hundreds of thousands of civil servants who have went, right?
Yes.
We only have a few hundreds of thousands doses of the COVID vaccine, and it's being rolled out to everybody in the public. But the government is saying, if you go there, you will get prioritized. So basically, the government is telling you, if you're not a civil servant, you're not in the priority list.
Or that if you do show up and you show up with a civil servant,
servant gets, you don't.
And you will not. This is it. Until and unless we have greater numbers of vaccines available in the country, it will be very difficult for us to say that our vaccination drive is ongoing. It's not.
Mixed messaging is a bad thing, Mr. Government.
One of the things about proverbs, sayings, fables, is that one sentence or that one phrase captures an entirety of truth and reality. Remember the story about crying wolf?
Yes.
When, as a government, the reputation you have acquired over time is an entity that doesn't fulfill promises, that says more than it actually does, even when you are doing something, the knee-jerk reaction is to disbelieve it until it is proven beyond a shadow of doubt. And even then, there'll be that lingering if and but and perhaps.
You must see it.
No, with me, that is standard. I have to see it.
Yes.
I have
touch
to
it.
Surely. Is that not a simple basic requirement?
Yeah, it is. Let's take a break. Okay, so we can take a look at the weather. 17 minutes after 6, Kenya's biggest conversation is live streaming on SpiceFM KE. Use YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Let us know where you are. We'll be saying hello to you shortly. And then we look at the headlines. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial *550*1# to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
All right, it's
You're
50
listening.
degrees and light rain in Nairobi in certain parts. 22 will be the high and lows of 14 today. 14 and raining in Nyeri as well, with highs of 20. It'll come down to lows of 13. We're looking at a low of 14 in Nakuru, where it's also wet this morning. Highs of 22, 22 and mostly cloudy conditions in Eldoret at 12. It's 18 degrees and clear skies in Kisumu for now at 26. That'll be the high. And 26 will also be the high in Kakamega, where it's currently clear at 16. Light rain at 22 in Mombasa with highs of 28. 28 will also be the high in Malindi. It's raining at 23. 18 degrees and rain showers in Kampala, highs of 27 and lows of 18. We'll see highs of 29 in Dar es Salaam. It's mostly clear this morning at 20. It's chilly this morning in Johannesburg at 6. Highs of 18. 29 will be the high in Lagos. It's mostly clear at 25. And mostly clear conditions at 23 in Kinshasa. Highs of 31 and lows of 22. We'll see highs of 31 in Beijing. It's sunny at 22. Mostly cloudy conditions at 17 in Paris. Highs of 27. It's 15 degrees and clear in London. Highs of 23 and lows of 15. All right. New York is still Tuesday night, mostly clear conditions. However, there's a warning for excessive heat, going to highs of 30 today in New York and lows of 24.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4
All right,
Spice
how
FM.
are you? Wherever
Nairobi.
you are, 20 minutes after 6. Who's online?
Otieno Odero Jr. is tuning in from the Great Wall of Keno. Alex is tuning in from Kimana in Loitoktok.
Alex Kuseren Musikeri.
Yeah.
I grew up with that gentleman.
Did you?
Yes. In Kimana or Loitoktok.
You also grew up in Loitoktok?
In Kimana or Loitoktok.
Oh, specifically so.
He is my neighbor.
Just
Wow.
hold it.
Alex, say hello to mom.
Pay attention. Kihu?
Kimana.
Kimeumana. Where? In Loitoktok.
Loitoktok.
Yes.
Kimeumana in Loitoktok.
Alex, Sobarui. Salimia Made.
Yes.
Yo, Charity Mina tuned in from Milimani Estate in Nakuru. Brian Ratemo is tuned in from Arlington in Texas. And Raz Kevo says, Happy New Year. Okay, it's been about 8 months into the year, but okay. Chacha Robbie is tuning in from Isibanya. Wow, I like these places, some exotic sounding places we've not heard people from, so that's nice. Laban Tanui Kepte is tuning in from Koryot Nandi. Nanyuki is online, that's where Kev Santana is. Bewa Macha tuning in from Machakos this morning. Josephine Njame is also tuning in. I like that name. Njame. Rolls off your tongue. Angelina Tenga is tuned in this morning from South Africa, and David Kiari Wasubukia is tuned in from Subukia. Washida Wilfred. Good morning, Auntie. Here in Gishugu with you since kickoff. Let the ball roll. It is Danny. Molly Yulem Jepman is also tuned in. And Wesley Ajega is tuned in as well. Robert Lai Sabalheri Nyote, he says. And Diana tuned in from Kitengela. Phil F.A., I will call you F.A. Collins, tuned in as well from Embakasi. Thank you all of us, you, for joining us this morning. Good morning.
Karibuni sana. City. What is today's proverb?
Do not blame God for creating. The proverb actually said tiger, but I decided leopard is more appropriate. Okay?
Okay. Sure,
Yes.
let's just change that.
Full disclosure. Just thank him for not giving it wings.
Do not blame God for creating the leopard.
Yes.
Just thank him for not giving it wings.
Yes.
Okay. Where was this proverb originally from before you Africanized it?
According to the writers of this particular proverb, where I get my proverbs from, I had a question mark to it because they said it is Ethiopian. And I looked and searched. I couldn't find a history.
Ethiopia.
No, I know where Ethiopia is.
Okay.
Exactly, yes, next door. But tigers in Ethiopia was this is where my problem was. So
Kosharij kidogo.
yes, kubwa, kubwa.
Maybe that's where the Tigrayans are.
Where hey, it's good to have somebody in the room whose brain is kicking.
Sorry. Tigers are not native to Africa. Forget it. Tigray or rubbish.
Even with continental drift and what have you.
It can't.
Sorry.
The Tigrayans are tigers. Yeah. So let's look at the headlines. I want to start at page 10 of The Nation today. Page 10 and 11. Alarm as COVID infections spike in rural areas. Nakuru, Nyeri, Kirinyaga and Meru feel coronavirus burden due to a culture of social gatherings and high rate of non-communicable diseases. Counties around Mount Kenya, previously seen as low risk, are experiencing a fresh spike in COVID-19 cases as residents drop their guard, with officials reporting more infections and deaths. So they're talking about a culture of social gatherings and a high prevalence of non-communicable diseases could explain the high numbers, specifically in Nyeri, Meru, Nakuru, Kirinyaga counties, medical experts say. Remember, in the issue of non-communicable diseases, even when we hosted the deputy governor of... She's still deputy governor of Nyeri.
Of Nyeri County.
She's still there?
She's PNG, but okay.
Okay.
PNG.
Persona non grata.
Hey, you know PNG means Papua New Guinea.
Right, it does. Okay, in this
Or
case.
Paris Saint-Germain.
All right. But in this case, socially, it's persona non grata.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Dr. Caroline Karogo, she told us they have a very high prevalent rate of non-communicable diseases, and that's why cancer is a big issue in Nyeri County. So this is also now saying, with all those in place, and then people not observing the measures that they should be observing, kinaumana, in terms of COVID. Hospitals in Nakuru County, including level 5, are almost full as a fresh surge of COVID cases sweeps across the region. In the past 2 weeks, at least 50 people have died in Nakuru, pushing the total number of deaths in the region since the outbreak to 382. According to a report by the Nakuru Health Department, 101 confirmed cases are currently on supplemental oxygen, 7 patients in ICU. Nyeri is also badly hit. Some 48 people died in April and 38 in July. In August, 8 county report shows. In June, 2 people died. Data from the Nyeri Health Department shows the county's positivity rate is 33%. You said the national rate is
14.7, yeah.
Nyeri's positivity rate is 33%, the second highest number reached this year. The county has recorded 3,000 cases since last year, and the nation has learned that 107 confirmed patients are in various isolation facilities across the county. Of these, 48 patients in Nyeri are on oxygen. Elderly people, 60 and above, accounting for the highest rate of infection at 22%. So these are numbers basically that are just coming up from various parts of the country, and it's showing there's a serious surge of COVID cases. Not just, we know hospitals in Nairobi full. We also know that hospitals in Nairobi, where you're likely to get oxygen in more than one facility, get outside Nairobi. The places you're likely to get oxygen are limited. It's only in the level 4s and aboves. And then now you see these kind of cases.
It is not a pretty picture, you guys.
Nope.
What's going on now is not a pretty picture. And
In
even
Kirinyaga, let me
Go
just
ahead.
read this. In Kirinyaga, the Gathoge police post has been closed after all the 6 police officers based there tested positive for COVID-19. Officials from the county's public health department say it's necessary to close the facility to avoid the spread of the disease. The post will remain closed for 10 days, according to the county police commander, Leah Kithei. 5 officers were in self-quarantine, while the 6th, who is in serious condition, has been isolated at Kirinyaga Sub-County Hospital. Imagine having even to close down an entire police services inaccessible.
Not here. You will not be able to. So even if with a complaint or whatever, you cannot bring a complaint forward because
There's no
nobody's
cop.
been there. Excuse me. There's nobody there.
Yep.
But even as you're looking at that, just on page 11, right?
Yeah.
So now Parliament is saying you don't have a jab, you will not have access to public places. That's going to be debated today. To say that everybody, now we're not just talking about public servants, we're talking about everybody, that if you don't have this jab, you will not be able to access public places. And this is what Parliament wants to be enacted. Well and good. However, where are the vaccines? I don't think Kenyans at this point are saying, we don't want to get vaccinated. No. People are going. We have WhatsApp groups every day. People are sending messages really quickly. Right, tomorrow at Delta Center, there's a vaccination drive going. If you can go. Where you find 10 vaccines available, people are rushing to go and get them.
But also more importantly,
where are the
communication
vaccines?
That now the vaccines are available to everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are people who still think
that they're not in the group that can go and get them.
Yes.
But even if they were, they're not enough. You hear right now that Bagathi is serving people. In the next 30 minutes, whatever they have will be finished.
You should see the queues going to Bagathi.
People are not able to get them.
NMS released a list of the facilities where
you can
they
go
are.
And get.
Yeah. But the case is still the same. You go to some of those facilities are full, maybe others are not. All right. Maybe what we need to do is actually have a spot check and people tell us the facilities that NMS have said this is where you can get the vaccine.
Have you actually been able to get?
Yeah.
But my problem is here again, that conversation that we've had about making decisions based on information. Now here you want to go and spend 2 hours today debating this thing about whether people will be banned from going to public spaces to access public services on a vaccination, whereas the vaccines are not available in the numbers that you would like them to be. How then do you make that kind of a decision?
I think it's a good motion because
Absolutely,
it's
I
a
think
motion
so.
by Abdul Samad. Yeah?
Yes, it is.
But I think it's way ahead of its time.
It's premature. It really
it's
is.
just so way ahead of its time.
It can happen. If the vaccines were available and you had people with stockpiles in different centers saying people are not coming, then by all means.
How long would it take for this particular motion to go through the processes to the point where we are now saying it is fully matured and can be a law and so can be implemented?
Well, the motion was given yesterday. It will be discussed in the House for 2 hours today, or rather tomorrow. And the Delta variant, as they say, as it continues to wreak havoc. So they're arguing that despite the frequent lockdowns instituted with the main aim of countering the spread of the virus, etc., the move was to have this all curtailed. So it'll be debated tomorrow. After debate,
it goes through a process.
It does. It's a process. But
but it's a motion, though.
It's a motion.
It's basically just seeking to compel the government. I think maybe there could also be an issue of reporting here, right? Maybe Abdul Samad's motion is seeking to compel the government to make sure that there is vaccination ongoing as a priority, prioritize vaccination. And then that will be a condition for reopening. Once you get a certain critical mass of people vaccinated, then you'll have no reason at all to tell people, curfew, don't do buses.
He has said the main aim of the motion is to allow full reopening of the country as people have suffered under current restrictions. So if you get vaccinated, there is no reason why then the country should be shut down.
If I can prove that I've been vaccinated, I can work at night.
But it's true. It's a logical conclusion to that particular discussion. And it is a good discussion to have. Now, something a little more positive, a good shot in the arm.
Okay,
now, 37 years in the making, that is how long those who have been behind the HIV vaccine initiative have been working on this. But there is not just a ray of light. One could even argue there's a blast of it. Kenya is supposed to test the all-powerful HIV vaccine this month. Okay? The pursuit, the journey towards trying to get this vaccine has been in this country for the longest time. And the initiative is actually nestled at the College of Health Science, University of Nairobi Medical School, under CAVI, Kenya AIDS Vaccine Initiative. Now, again, Oxford, they really seem to lead in these matters, okay? 3 countries on this continent are going to be part of, should we say, the ground in which the vaccine is going to be tested. Kenya, Uganda, and Zambia. Okay? And they'll be looking for 88 healthy HIV-negative adults aged between 18 and 55, all right?
Okay.
Who are not considered to be high risk. Yes.
What's high risk?
Well, high risk is if your activities predispose you
to these manenos
quickly. Yes.
You understand who the high risk people are?
Yes, if you are inclined as opposed to not inclined. Yes.
So people like us, we can go. I'm in that age bracket. I'm low risk.
This is the thing I like.
It's for humanity.
You are given certain condition and you choose the one which suits you. They said, adult, okay. I fit it.
So adult was inside. I'm adult.
I'm adult. Age between 18 and 55.
All those other things.
Yes.
Of the categories listed, I have achieved 2.
And then you measured the high risk. I said, of course I'm not high risk.
I'm not high risk.
Do I look high risk to you?
Sheesh.
So when does that start? When do the trials start?
Well, the vaccine's already in country.
All right.
Now, usually there's a protocol, and that protocol involves taking that vaccine with your protocol to authorizing bodies so that they can determine whether this is something, meaning to give it an okay.
For you to start the
Yes,
trials.
you have to take it to an ethical review board.
Okay.
Okay, now, ethical review boards, we have the premier one. Well, it's a body. This is odd. This is a field I worked in for a long time. And I knew the names at the tip of my finger.
Yeah.
Now, when I'm trying to recall...
It does not come, eh?
Forget not coming, it goes.
Which one is the main one? The medical board?
No. The main one, the body that oversees this thing, I will remember the name just now.
Okay.
But...
The one you were trying to remember last year?
The last... You see,
the research one?
That one.
What's it called?
We will get it.
Yeah.
But institutions like the University of Nairobi, universities that have medical courses...
Nacosti.
See? Now, you knew this all along and you're keeping quiet.
Surely.
Letting us struggle here.
Sorry, I won't do it again.
Anyway.
Helps to be young.
Kenyatta. So... It'll probably go to Kenya Medical Research Institute because there is a collaborative understanding between the University of Nairobi and KEMRI and other more universities. All these universities that have medical schools and conduct research, they have a collaborative understanding. Okay? Now, why am I sounding positive about this? It's because it tells you just how much the world of research put into the COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
Because HIV has ravaged this planet. But look at the length of time it has taken to get to a point where you're actually testing a vaccine on a human population.
Right.
That's good. That's some very good news. 24 minutes to 7. Let's take a break. How are the roads looking like? And then we'll look at more headlines.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
At NCBA, we know it's more than a house loan.
It's the many memories with your loved ones. Call 0711 056 444 or visit ncbagroup.com for more information on property finance. At NCBA Bank, the numbers that matter to you matter to us.
Okay, so we're looking at traffic building up right around the Bunyala Road roundabout. Coming into the city also, there is quite some. A little bit also on Langata Road, and we're also looking at some traffic on Jogo Road this morning. Lunga Lunga industrial area, not too bad right now. It's opening up. In Maritime, that normal traffic we see on Mombasa Road headed in and outbound. A little bit of traffic also. Now we see that coming from the Weybridge at Mlolongo through to the SGR on that side of Mombasa Road, it is now a single lane because of the construction. So it is going to be a nightmare. I'm just telling you, inbound to the city, it's one lane, and it was not looking pretty at about 5 o'clock. Likelihood of that getting quite messy this morning is very high. Okay, coming off of the Thika Superhighway right around Muthui Square, joining with Kiambu Road. Also quite some traffic there this morning. Let's look out into Mombasa, where 3 ferries are serving you according to KFS. Star 712 hash, remember, pay your ferry toll via M-Pesa and not cash, because then they will not carry. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text on 40127 just in case.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, this is an interesting story. I'm not quite, well, I don't know if you say interesting or horror at sea. 22-day ordeal. A boat wreck in the Indian Ocean for 50 Comorans, these are people from the island of Comoro, turned into a 3-week ordeal of survival for the fittest, in which the 7 who succumbed were thrown into the water to keep the vessel afloat. The 8 survivors ate raw fish and drank salty water until their boat was spotted near the Malindi shore, and they were rescued unconscious. So this is a bit of a disturbing story. But it would appear that they are these the individuals who were found on this boat were fishermen. All right. There were 7 who died. 8 were found unconscious after their wrecked boat washed up in Malindi Monday morning after 22 days at sea. The 7 who had died, including a pregnant woman and 2 of her children, had to be thrown overboard to keep the vessel afloat, while the 8 survivors had to drink salty water and eat raw fish to stay alive. So not all of them were fishermen. The 15 passengers had set sail for a 2-day journey from Nzuani Island to Mayotte Island in Comoro when heavy winds and a mechanical mishap saw the propeller of their motorboat sink into the sea. One of the survivors, Mr. Mahmoud Hassan, who was the first to regain consciousness and talk, albeit with difficulty, revealed all the 15 members were of one family. Hassan said they had packed only a little food and had to give priority to the pregnant woman and her children. The woman, her husband, and 2 children, however, died of starvation as strong waves buffeted their vessel towards the Kenyan waters in what he described as 22 days of horror at sea. The 8 survivors were rescued by Kenyan fishermen and Kenyan Navy soldiers and are recuperating at the Malindi Sub-County Hospital. The survivors of the ordeal include Muhammad Ahmed, Muhammad Sedwahi, Samin Mohammed, Samir Mahmood, Harun Ahmed, and Haruna Husseini. Mr. Nasiru Tawidu, another survivor, narrated their ordeal, and he said it was by God's grace that they're alive. The 28-year-old said it was horrifying to watch his relatives die, one after another, because of starvation, all along thinking, you are next. He explained that the journey turned tragic when their vessel broke down a few hours only into the journey, and they were on sea for 22 days, watching people die one by one.
On that boat was a pregnant woman, her husband, her children. The little food that they had, according to this eyewitness, they prioritized giving the pregnant woman. She was the first to die.
Yes.
And then her eldest son, who survived, said, no, we are not going to throw her at sea. We shall keep her here. 2 days, body started decomposing. Everybody else convinced them, no, guys, let's throw her overboard. They throw her overboard. On that same day, about almost the same time, soon after throwing her overboard, her husband dies. Overboard. Her 2 children die. Imagine. You have just watched.
They were actually going
from
one island to the next. The Comoro are made up of different islands, right? So they were actually going from one island to Mayotte.
And it takes 2 days. Imagine.
The vessel's motor broke down.
Okay, I've got it.
And then these winds.
Winds now
Strong.
were pushing them.
Remember, this is at season of the monsoon.
Indian Ocean.
Yes, and then the winds were pushing them now in an easterly direction.
Okay.
In the opposite of where they were supposed to be going.
They end up in Watamu. Fishermen in Watamu.
It's not round the corner.
It's not round the corner.
Yes.
22 days on the water is what we're looking at. No cover.
All these days we've been coming here, talking, laughing, blah, blah. There's some
They've
people
been on the water.
On the water, and they're just looking at, we're going to die.
You know that issue of the engine dying? I have had that experience on Lake Victoria. Yes. But it is a lake that is plied by many boats. And the thing that I realized was important is something called technology. All these coxswains have phones. So all that coxswain did was made a phone call and we were towed.
Someone came.
And they all have ropes.
Yeah.
Meaning it's something they understand. But it is a busy thoroughfare. There are many boats on that route, so it's not as though you'll get stuck.
You can imagine what would have happened with this. A relatively small vessel carrying all of these people, not expected to be on the water for, a very long period of time.
That's the ocean. It's a very different kettle of fish.
Very, very, very,
and it's
very.
wind.
It's a very different
wind,
kettle of fish.
Strong winds.
High open water.
I still remember the occupants of that particular boat, colleagues of mine. Some of them, it was their first experience to be out at sea. And you see, you're in the middle of the lake. You cannot see land anywhere. I can still recall the panic. The sheer panic. Now,
how long did you stay before you were rescued?
I think 30 minutes.
You see? Now you can
And you
imagine.
can
Just imagine what was happening here. Day turned to night. Night, 12 hours.
Ran out of food,
There's water all around you. It's dark. There are children.
No, I'm thinking of the ocean. You see, the sea has its perils. Like, for instance, it is known that at a certain hour, it isn't wise for you to be out because of the winds.
Yes.
And yes, again, if you're in the sea often enough, you will have that experience where on some occasion, a wave and the wind, forget crashing, your boat becomes airborne.
Yeah.
And you know it's airborne because you're in the boat and it's airborne and then it crashes back down. So now I'm thinking lake with that. Now I'm thinking sea.
Sea.
Hey.
The winds are heavier.
You've been to the coast where you see the waves are now crashing against the wall, right? That's minimal compared to what's happening in the open sea.
Those waves have been broken down by the reef.
Exactly.
They've been tapered.
What I don't understand, though,
yes,
is the logic that they were using to throw the bodies overboard.
Because they were heavy. And so they needed the vessel to be lighter to be able to move.
What is heavy?
The bodies that having passed away, that they were giving additional weight to the vessel.
Why not throw away everything else?
We don't know what everything else they had. But the bodies then
Because how much heavier does a body become? You're alive, you're 70 kilos.
You're dead.
You die.
You're 70 kilos. Yeah.
If you were on the boat and you were not heavy, why did you become heavy once you've died?
I think I would take my mind towards thinking of a body that's decomposing and the discomfort.
Well, this is it.
therein.
This is the thing, because they did report that the lady's body then started to decompose and they were not able to stand it anymore. And they said, look, guys, let's take this option.
Hey. It's 7:15. Take a break now. We'll be back shortly. Are you reading the papers with us? If you have a telecom line, please, you can access the Standard e-paper. Just dial *550*1# for 20 shillings daily. You'll be able to read the Standard e-paper from your telecom line, star 550 star 1 hash. And if you want the Nairobian, star 550 star 2 hash. If you'd like the daily pullout, star 550 star 3 hash. Nairobian and the Standard E-paper, 20 bob daily. The pullouts are 5 bob daily, deducted from your mobile device, mobile airtime on a daily basis. Good morning.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say, I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us to assert our will.
When the legislature are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Judicial is Jeshi Lawoko?
I can't say it very well. No,
Yes, 12 minutes to 7. What is that?
And everyone knows.
Okay, what's in line of cues?
Right, so Leah's saying that... good morning, guys. Embakasi Health Center, the queue is manageable and no congestion. This is in relation to vaccines. So that's an option of getting them, and they're available there, at least for today.
Embakasi Health Center.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the Ministry of Education has ordered all secondary school principals who have overcharged their students to refund extra fees. Reacting to cries of desperate parents who complained of being exploited by some principals, the Ministry of Education yesterday issued tough instructions through a circular. Principals of secondary schools have been directed to refund extra fees that they charge to parents against the set guidelines. According to Basic Education PS Julius Juan, parents who paid extra money should get a refund. Any fees collected above the revised guidelines be refunded or treated as prepayment of fees for continuing students. He also said that all extra levies charged on parents against the fees guidelines be refunded to parents. This directive is contained in an August 9th circular signed on his behalf by Paul Kibet, Director of Secondary and Tertiary Education. Do you think the school principals are going to... Oh my God, sasa wazazi fanyeni hivi.
Come and take your money.
Wacha tuweke hii pesa ikuwe ya next term. Do you see that happening?
Good luck. Money has entered your hand. Then you say, come and give it back or let it go for something else. Sorry.
But, with a circular like this and information having come out, you as a parent who has paid extra, knowing that you paid extra, then you have a strong case to go and present to their school and say, look, guys.
This is what I know it was supposed to be.
This is it.
This is what you charge me extra.
You have been told you cannot charge me extra, and the government has told you either refund me or you consider this part of next term school fees. Choose your poison.
Okay. Business Daily. See, today I got it right.
Yes. Well done.
Beer, fuel, border, price to rise in new tax. Well, I keep saying this whenever you're told, oh, there's a... I told you, really? Okay. From October the 1st this year, after Kenya Revenue Authority moves to effect its annual inflation tax adjustment on excess duty, this is what's going to happen, okay? All these producers that I've mentioned will have an increase of 4.97% in terms of cost.
So they're going up?
Cost of living?
Yeah?
Yes, they're going up. They're going up.
And this is beer, what else?
Water.
Oh my friend.
Yeah?
I believe it was water as
Bottled
well.
water.
Yes.
Fuel, beer, juice.
Why don't I just
even juice.
Why don't I just read it for you? Okay. It's a long list. Petrol, diesel, kerosene, motorcycles, spirits, liquors, beer, wine, cigarettes, chocolate, fruit juice, bottled water, imported sugar, chocolate.
Imported sugar.
You know,
The cost of living is higher and higher.
well,
and higher.
actually, this merry-go-round that we are being treated to here is the game that is played and which guarantees the inflation will keep going up, not down. Okay? Because you raise the cost of basics. What then happens? People clamor for a salary rise. And they get the 10% cost of living adjustment, blah, 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 blah. Give it a bit of time, and what do you have? A mini budget, something. So it doesn't end. It just keeps playing, and the cost of living keeps going up, and your shilling is just able to buy less and less.
Gets
and
weaker
less
and
time.
weaker.
Yes.
That's it.
So.
Oh, yeah.
So, Deputy Chief Justice Mwilu is in court. The court has been told of 20 million shillings cash deals in the Mwilu case. Cash transactions totaling to 20 million, and her communicating with a criminal suspect were the subject of lengthy High Court proceedings yesterday. The JSC brought up the cash dealings during the second day of her hearing in a case that Justice Mwilu has filed to challenge pending disciplinary proceedings against her. The court was told that the Deputy CJ engaged in suspicious financial activities at the Supreme Court parking lot, her office at the building, and her home in Kilimani. This Kilimani city. 7 years ago. Kilimani for Nairobi.
City is a chief.
Of Kilimani. Of this Kilimani, Nairobi. 7 years ago. JSC's lawyer, Charles Kanjama, said the dealings involved two companies, RAEI Investments and Grand Forest Japan Hospital Limited. Mr. Kanjama said the transactions were 3 million shillings paid by Justice Mwilu at the Supreme Court parking lot on the 28th of October 2014 and 7 million at her office. The Deputy CJ also reportedly paid another 10 million shillings at her residence on the 5th of November 2014. The transactions were in relation to the sale and acquisition of 3 pieces of land. So money transferred for purchase of land.
Right.
So while pleading with the court to throw out Justice Mwilu's case that has halted the start of disciplinary proceedings, the lawyer refuted reports that the commission has made up its mind on the misconduct claims leveled against her. So,
isn't this one funny though? Philomena Mwilu is a member of the JSC.
Yes.
The JSC has taken her to court.
Yes.
Oh no, she has taken
She has taken the
JSC to court,
to
and
court.
she's saying no. These things that you guys want to start the disciplinary proceedings,
Stop
wrong.
it.
But they still meet, and there's camaraderie. But next day we got.
Ka-chang. Whip out.
Is this not a good thing, though?
It is very good.
Very good. It means that, we can handle the business when we need to handle the business, but that the camaraderie can continue.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a good thing insofar as we are not being played.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Yes. So,
Because if it's just high drama to entertain us and to show us that the law is actually being followed and that no one is above the law, if indeed this is something that represents the reality of what is happening, there's a case that needs to be answered and they're going through the process, then it is a good thing.
it is.
Yes.
Huku haya ya kijiri, the Chief Justice, what's her name?
Martha Koome.
That one, is asking the police to look. If you cannot arrest a member of parliament in the precincts of parliament, why would you arrest a member of the judiciary, a judicial officer, within the precincts of the judiciary?
Are you
We
then
should
saying,
apply that standard.
Are we saying that members
Do
of
not
parliament are
storm
holier?
the judiciary to come and arrest somebody. You want to arrest somebody, arrest them from elsewhere. But respect the sanctity of the judiciary. That's basically what she has told. She has told the Inspector General of Police as well as the Cabinet Secretary for the Interior, I'd like us to have this conversation. Because what happens when you see police officers storming, like we saw Justice Philomena Mwilu, police, drama,
house, office.
coming to her office in the judiciary to arrest her. We saw the other day with the 2 judges, police officers coming to arrest and ransack, And she's like, let's separate. If you want to arrest, you can arrest them outside, and then you come in with the proper process. And if you want to search the offices, let my office know, or let the Registrar of the Judiciary. Let that happen smoothly.
But Eric, as you do know, that the matter of the two judges, Chitembwe and Mchelule, as far as the police are concerned, they did not arrest those gentlemen.
They just invited them.
Yes, just asked them to come over.
But the police entered the precincts of
their office.
The office.
They did.
The judiciary to conduct whatever they were doing.
They did. They did. So the question that now rises in my mind, is there a law that prevents the police from arresting the individuals within
Parliament?
The premise? Yes. And is there a law that prevents them from arresting a judge from within the premises of the courts?
There's no law. That's why the Chief Justice is saying, let's work on these modalities and procedures. I guess the standing orders and the protection of Parliament says that you will not do that.
Just like anything that you utter within the premises of Parliament
is protected.
Yeah. So that's all I'm asking. Now, the truth of the matter is this. We don't know whether those discussions have actually been had. Because what is certain about this country, there are always discussions taking place. We're just not privy to them.
Yeah.
They took place before Martha Koome became Chief Justice. They are taking place even now.
Yeah.
But this high drama that we are treated to in the newspapers, and one which we in the media also pander to and encourage, sometimes it's what denies us the justice that we keep claiming we are seeking.
Why?
For the simple reason that when there's drama, it clouds one's eyes. You're not really sure what it is that you're actually dealing with.
But do you think it actually makes sense? I think to me it does make sense.
I think it does.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
It makes a lot of sense.
We're looking at an arm of government here. And if it applies to one arm of government, then most assuredly it can apply to another.
Yeah, don't
just storm in. If you can't storm in one clear arm of government because of 1, 2, 3, then the same should be able to apply to another arm.
And they are independent, are they not?
Yes. I think it's just come up with a clear way of, if you wanted to arrest a judge, if you wanted, you can arrest them from home, and then you come and you want to conduct a search, come and conduct a search in their office. And that will be facilitated by, if it's in the case of Parliament, the clerk of the National Assembly or the clerk of the Senate will facilitate this. In the case of the judiciary, the registrar, chief registrar of the judiciary, who is the administrative head of the judiciary, will come in and facilitate police officers. You need access to this office. Here it is. Do what you need to do and leave. Let's take a quick break so that we can hear the news and then look at the traffic and then hear more stories. There's a lot that's going to happen in Parliament today with regards to that whole matter of campaign financing. And there are other things that are happening around the world, like there's a whole governor who was the most decorated governor by the media in the fight against COVID-19, who has now undecorated himself.
And said, removed the tinsel.
Yeah, and said, I. It's okay. Nilifanya makosa, wacha niende. Good morning. It's now 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Leah Obaga. Kenyans are still questioning whether there was more to the Mombasa State House meeting that saw President Uhuru Kenyatta meet with ODM leader Raila Odinga and One Kenya Alliance leaders. This is after a statement from State House stated that the meeting was aimed at discussing COVID-19, economic recovery and the maintenance of peace and stability in the country. President Uhuru Kenyatta has been at the forefront of urging the leaders to reunite and create a single political party that will be their vehicle in the battle towards next year's general elections. This comes even as NASA was dissolved, with Odinga hinting at holding talks with the Okoa leaders.
Wanasema wanatoka, hiyo haimaanishi kwamba hatuwezi kuungana tena. Hiyo NASA kazi yake ilikwisha, lakini huko mbele tutakuja pamoja. Sasa mara hii wengine wameenda Oka. Sisi sasa tunaanza mjadala ya kuleta watu wetu pamoja. Tukishafanya haya yote tutakuwa tayari kuongea na OCA.
Deputy President William Ruto, while meeting with Kitui leaders at his current residence, said his campaigns towards the 2022 elections won't be slowed down by state intimidation. He further asked his competitors to sell their agendas instead of selling fear. This comes as the DP's trip to Uganda was aborted and his aide, Turkish national Harun Aydin, was deported over claims of terrorism and being in the country illegally.
If you want to compete with the hustler nation, please assemble a semblance of a program or a policy or an agenda so that you can compete with us. Otherwise, hiyo mnauza fear na uoga mnauza iko na shelf life. In another 2-3 months, hiyo bei ya uoga itakuwa imefika zero na mtazama.
The National Assembly is calling on you to submit your views on 4 IBC commissioners appointed by President Uhuru Kenyatta last week. Meanwhile, the Parliamentary Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs is expected to hold sessions to approve the nominees on the 24th of this month. Uhuru nominated Juliana Cherera, Francis Wanderi, Irene Masit and Justice Nyang'aya before presenting their names to National Assembly Speaker Justin Muthui. The 4 were among the 36 candidates selected by the selection panel. If approved, the 4 are expected to replace Rosalind Akombe, Margaret Mwachanya, Paul Kurgat, and former Deputy Chairman Lady Consolata Minor, who resigned from the IBC. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
All right, pockets of traffic in the city is what we're looking at this morning. Langata Road is also building up, going into the city. So look at our trouble spots normally, and they seem to be living up to that expectation right now. Jogor Road, a little bit here and there, going into the city. Where it's hot and heavy, though, is Thika Road. From Survey through to the Pangani Underpass, joining with Kiambu Road traffic. That is what looks like a sore spot right now. So we just have to keep an eye on things as far as that is concerned. We're also seeing some traffic then coming round from Roy Sambu, that area, still on Thika Road. But apart from that, it looks pretty good in most parts of the city, guys. Hopefully we can keep it that way. But we are in the middle of traffic hour right now. It's just begun. And coming out of Westlands, we still see some traffic building up around Muthui Road. We'll keep an eye on things for you. Help us out as well. Where you see that you might be stuck, talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your
5
day.
5 minutes after 7. Good morning, 11th day of August 2021. Happy Wednesday, wherever you are. In Malava, Kabras is Farouk Pushuru. You know where that is?
Kabras.
Yeah.
I know there's sugar.
Yeah.
Isn't it? From Kabras.
No. There is even a sugar producing establishment with that name.
Yeah.
There's a Kabras sugar.
Kabras sugar, yeah.
Yes, but there's a place called Kabras.
So I'm saying, is this Kabras sugar from this Kabras?
It is situated.
Ah, okay.
Kabras
Malava
sugar.
is in Western Kenya.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
Malaba gets its fame from being a border point.
That's what I'm saying. It's a border town because I remember going to Uganda.
Is Malaba the same as Malava?
I had never thought of it.
This one he says Malava.
But it's Malava.
Because I've heard of Malava.
I've heard of Malaba as well.
Malaba's border.
Yes.
Malava is not border.
It's not border.
But it's Western. Kenya.
It's Western.
Voila.
Okay.
Farouk, please educate us on some geography here. Is Malava the same as Malaba?
No.
Or how far apart are they? Are they even in the same county? Malaba is in Busia.
And is your Malava the one that has Cabras? Is your Cabras in Malava the one that has the sugar?
Factory.
Many questions for Farouk this morning.
Hey, my friend. Today's Proverb City.
Do not blame God for creating the leopard. Just thank him for not giving it wings.
Do not blame God for creating the leopard. Just thank him for not giving it wings. What would happen if a leopard had wings?
Get to you faster, my friend.
My friend.
You wouldn't have to jump and run. You fly
Turbo.
on your neck. Boom. Your lunch.
You would not be safe.
You'd be lunch.
It would be
Quicker.
slower.
You know all these enclosures that you are, well, it will probably have wings commensurate with its body. The creator seems to do that. I mean, look at an eagle and the wingspan that it has. It's massive.
6 feet.
Yes.
One wing.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
Nice big bird.
So you can imagine if a leopard with that powerful jaw had wings. Or more.
A leopard is actually more known for its viciousness. And one of the few animals that is known to actually kill for sport. No, not that it's hungry.
Dogs.
It's thinking, today is not really interesting. So what should we do? Let's pick a fight.
Let's pick a wildebeest and grab it and run up a tree with it.
Do your imagination is good.
No, but leopards are one of the few cats who take their kill up into the trees.
Think of a wildebeest and the size of a wildebeest.
No, but that's why it has one of the strongest jaws of all the cats, because it's able to do this while climbing up a tree. I'm not kidding. I listen to David Attenborough a lot.
I am aware that you're not kidding. I am simply saying what I'm saying.
It's true.
Over in New York, as we look at what else is happening around the world, something happened yesterday. Governor Andrew Cuomo facing possible impeachment over sexual harassment claims from 11 women and mounting pressure to quit from fellow Democrats announced his resignation yesterday. It was stunning reversal of fortunes for the 63-year-old because of what he did. Just a year ago, he earned praise for his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic before being engulfed in the harassment allegations and claims that he covered up the scale of deaths in nursing homes. I think that given the circumstances, the best way I can help now is if I step aside and let government get back to government. That's what he said. My resignation will be effective in 14 days. He'll hand over to the deputy governor, who is actually called a lieutenant, according to Americans. Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, a fellow Democrat. This is one of those stories that you are like, okay, so what has happened?
The tides have turned.
From being way up there in terms of, all right, how are you handling? Oh, there's a response to Malava and blah, blah, blah. Malava is in Cabras, Kakamega, so it's the other way around. Malava is in Cabras. Malaba ni Boda. Kakamega is tuned.
All of them are in Kakamega?
No. Malaba is in Busia.
Malava is in Cabras, Kakamega County.
Yeah.
Right?
Malaba ni Boda.
So Malava is in Kakamega.
Yes.
Okay.
Malaba is in Busia.
Voila.
Sir Haron, who's giving us this information, is in Kakamega.
Okay.
Yes. So back to Cuomo. What is this?
It's a fall from grace. Or maybe he was actually never up there. Because these accusations that are coming out right now, and then it doesn't seem to me as though when COVID and was quote unquote managed in the United States, then that is when, if he were to have been dealing with these women in this manner, that's when they came out. Clearly, these things were happening before. The number of women, how many? 11.
Yes.
11 women. This story did not come out in the last 6 months.
What is this threshold for harassment?
Well, it could be anything. According to the sexual harassment laws in the United States, you touch a woman's shoulder, you say things to her that she's not comfortable with. You even look at her in a certain way. You compliment her when you don't have. You compliment her, I like your dress. And okay, she starts to think in a certain way. If it makes her uncomfortable, it is akin to harassment. The laws are very, very specific about this particular thing. So it could have been something as quote unquote simple as that, or at the very other end of the spectrum where we're looking at things like rape and things with more sexual contact. All right? I don't necessarily think it was a fall from grace. Clearly, to me, it was clear that this is behavior that he had been dabbling in for some time. It just so happens that he was doing something else that took the attention off of that. And as is often the case, when somebody has then reached their zenith of performance, whether it be for government or sport or something else, that's when things now start to climb out of the woodwork and say, hey, hold on a minute, this guy that you people are celebrating, or this person that you people are celebrating, look at what he's been doing in the dark.
I think it's also hubris. You get to a certain place, he flew too close to the sun. Get to a place where he thought he's invincible, you know, because probably it's not the first time that allegations of this nature have been brought against him. He's not a neophyte politician. He's been a man who's been in politics for a while.
And he is not a young man.
And he's not a young man. So he probably had managed those allegations before. You know, he'd reached out, he'd talked to them, he'd do something. And then he go to a point where it's like, what are they saying? Psh, my friend, are you seeing the kind of coverage I'm getting? I'm big. So now more and more people come out, and then you don't deal with it, and then that matter goes further up. Because all those allegations coming out at the same time, and then also accusations of how did you actually manage this COVID? Were you lying to us? Were you suppressing some numbers just to show us that you are really dealing with this COVID, but you know that more people are dying than you're reporting?
You're doing exactly what a lawyer would do in a court of law. That you take one instance in which an individual is behaving in a certain manner, and then you now apply that and say, if, and this is after the fact, if we find that you had behaved in this way at this time, then it could also point to the possibility that other things that you are given a responsibility to govern or lead over, then even in that you could have behaved in a manner then that did not hold the highest levels of integrity and authenticity, etc., etc. So, if these allegations are true, then could it also mean these things that you've been given accolades for then also could not have been
Actually,
true?
no, those are also being investigated because those things have come up. You know, in fact, even what started picking up steam even before the sexual allegations was on these numbers, the suppression of numbers in the some of these centers, knowing full well that there are more people who are dying, and then how many are you reporting? Remember, he used to hold these long-winded press conferences where he talked to the people. And then the numbers that he was giving, it emerges later that those numbers that you were giving, there were numbers that were coming out from other parts that you were not releasing. And officials would tell you, by Mr. Governor, include these numbers, and you tell them no.
Yeah.
So that is a separate investigation and a separate accusation that's already been leveled against him.
Right.
How did you manage this? Did you also misapply some of the finances that you're supposed to have applied in the fight against COVID?
So then would also vindicate folks like Top Doc Fauci, who continues and even continues to say until today that I'm telling you the approach that we've been taking towards this thing has not been right. So then it would appear that in this character flaw that has then been found out, you had also compromised other individuals who were supposedly doing their job. So I don't think it's necessarily a fall from grace. I think that what has happened now is that it's being aired. It's being put out in the open, and then everybody, whether it's the court of public opinion or whether it is actually the prosecutorial arm of government who will now do something about this. But I think it's very interesting that he said, you know what, which is probably something you would never see on this side of the pond. Okay, you're accusing me, let me step aside while you continue with the investigations.
He saw it.
What is going to happen?
Yes, but also significantly in the US, something that has happened over time, stories, situations where sexual harassment matters have come to the fore, they rose to a point where it became a movement, the Me Too movement. Now, there is a flip side to this particular discussion. And one of the discussions that has taken the fore is a discussion that men are no longer very sure of how to relate to women in the workplace. Men are reluctant to mentor women in a workplace. But more interestingly, there are cases of false accusations.
Yeah.
So that when somebody says, I was raped, the believability factor plays a very big role. So you are guilty even before.
The first thing is you're guilty. Now
You're
let's
guilty,
walk backwards.
and then everything else follows.
Yeah.
Yes. However, I think it shouldn't detract us from the simple fact that for this thing to have gotten to a point where it is a movement, it was rampant, and it was something that people took as normal.
And it was going untreated.
Yes.
For the longest time.
It was.
And I think what it did is that it gave rise to two things. One is that people would then be able to abuse the position. And then on the other side, many people were suffering without it being attended to. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people fall through the cracks here, where that somebody could do something in the utmost innocence and then be penalized for it, where that was neither their intention, neither was it their act. In this case, unfortunately, with with Cuomo, it seems as if the daggers that are being pointed in his direction may have some water to hold.
You know, there's something here. If you applied, for instance, those standards on this lovely country of ours in this equally wonderful continent.
Which standards? That you resign and as they continue?
No, before you
First
resign.
raising
the issues and make it, yes. We do have laws that actually protect people from sexual harassment.
Yeah.
But many of our people, when I say people, men oblivious to it, women equally oblivious because they do not see how it is an issue. And yet it is an issue.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
I think it's one of those things that I say organically. We get there. It's given a kick down the road.
Yes.
It's amplified, and then we get there as a society. We all see, all right, so this is actually now becoming a mainstream issue. It's gonna get mainstreamed. The issue of sexual harassment, not just sexual molestation or rape and defilement as we have it in law, but also just going into harassment. You said something, you know, groping and such things, those will become mainstreamed as we progress. As that is happening, in the same New York, Queen Elizabeth's second-born son, the Duke of York, Prince Andrew, is being accused of sexual abuse. A U.S. woman who alleges that she was brought to the U.K. at the age of 17 to have sex with the Duke of York has filed a civil case in New York claiming he abused her. Virginia Giuffre, who was an accuser of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, claims she was sexually assaulted by Prince Andrew in London and New York.
Sorry, I just have a question as you continue. I just wanted you to repeat something. In the initial paragraph that you read, she was brought to the US to have sex.
UK, to London.
To London to have sexual relations with.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me continue. The case alleges that the prince engaged in sexual acts with the woman, then known as Virginia Roberts, without her consent, knowing how old she was, and that she was a sex trafficking victim. The case also says the extreme and outrageous conduct continues to cause the woman, who is now 38 years old, significant emotional and psychological distress and harm. So, 20 years ago, Prince Andrew's wealth, power, position, and connections enabled him to abuse a frightened, vulnerable child with no one there to protect her. It's a long past the time for him to be held to account. Imagine. So, you remember those whole case of Jeffrey Epstein, man who was found to have committed suicide as he was awaiting trial to commence of what he had done with young girls who were alleged to have been trafficked, and then was bringing them to various places he owned, and then he'd invite his high-level friends, and some of the names that have been bandied around include this one of Prince Andrew, who came to his place, and they were meeting these young girls, and then they would have their way with them. So it's even alleged that now Andrew even transported this particular girl from New York to London.
So they're calling the prince a sex trafficker?
Yep.
Okay.
All those things at the same time. In a late statement, however, the prince says, "I continue to unequivocally regret my ill-judged association with Jeffrey Epstein, but on this particular issue of the allegation by this particular woman, the spokeswoman for Prince Andrew said there was no comment about this case. No comment. It's a big issue here of this case is being raised.
And I think more and more that you'll find that because more attention is being given and more is being done, it then gives the courage to those who may have been in a position of abuse to then come out. And I think that's what it does. That then, so two things happen. That those who then may have been previously abused will come out. And then it also probably might serve as a deterrent to those who are engaging in the act at that point to say, hold on a minute, this is now being given more limelight. And, you know, the law is coming in to be able to deal with us. Perhaps we will actually stop this.
You know, we see these things in the movies, eh? You see it in the movies of one of the characters enters some dimly lit din, and, you know, there are young girls there, and, you know, it just said these are... But can you imagine getting to a point where billionaires are actually involved,
royal billionaires
and members of the royal family are involved in trafficking of children? Because we are talking about a 17-year-old.
A child.
It's a 17-year-old girl, and she's ended up here. Remember the case of the former Italian Prime Minister Berlusconi and a girl who was then during his bunga bunga parties, and he'd bring in all these girls. And there was a Moroccan girl who at that point was said to have been still underage.
Yes.
So it's like one of those things. It's still a sport. It happens in front of our eyes, but also not really in front of our eyes. How is it possible?
You are talking about a patrilineal setup where traditionally young women were considered fair game. One, marrying off a young girl considered okay. In fact, good. Marrying a young girl in some communities who is considered a virgin, even better. Okay? Now, pedophilia has been referred to by some as an ailment. People who are that way inclined are not well. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't choose your background. It doesn't matter whether you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. It doesn't matter whether you've been barefooted from the time you were born. If you have a certain sexual inclination, and you are what ordinarily would refer to as a deviant, you're just that, a deviant. But wealth and power, unfortunately, for the longest time, the history of this particular planet seems to have insulated people
Has covered it up.
and has allowed them to indulge themselves in the basest and the most vile of activities in just because they can do it and just because they can get away with it. Yes. So, unfortunately, when this thing is brought to the light, the reality is that there are individuals who conduct this as a business. They are on the supply side of this business.
Yeah.
An unfortunate, ugly reality.
Yes.
But then there's something else that also bothers me somewhat. You see, when, for example, we have issues of arms trade, there are security agencies that are set up specifically to deal with illegal arms trade. There are agencies that are set up specifically to deal with drugs, right? Do we hear any agency set up to deal with human trafficking? Well, there's Interpol doing all this and the other. But then, what kind of work do they actually do?
Yeah, I mean...
Reports are done. CNN has done very many stories of human trafficking. The BBC, big media house, Al Jazeera has done. Yes. And they're basically showing how this is such a rampant trade. And they are trafficked in large numbers. Stolen, hoodwinked, trafficked, sex offenders. They are taken as sex slaves. But we don't actually just hear of, major crackdown on how to stop this, make it, I don't know.
Remember we were talking about the sale of young girls in Karamoja. When people talk about slave trade, they think of the transatlantic trade.
Yeah. Chains and lines.
Yes, but what many people don't talk about is the trade in white women, white people that took place along the Mediterranean coast up to the areas of the Black Sea and onto Russia. It was a vibrant trade, slave trade for the very longest time. It just morphed over the years. When Yugoslavia broke up, Eastern Europe suddenly started changing and moving the shackles of communism, as we're told. One of the things that was common was something similar. families giving up their young girls, essentially trading them off, and many of them to these supply barons who would then use them again as sex slaves, and they were brought over to Europe and some even to the US. So we are not talking about something that happens once in a while. If you look at the Asian countries, the Far Eastern countries, it is a trade that is rife even now. The fundamental difference, the West, is that it isn't that frowned upon in some of these countries. It's something that people don't talk much about, but it's more or less accepted. It's not considered to be a big thing. Now, you tell me, if culturally that is something that people have accepted. So people who grew up in that culture, even when they get moved and they take, it may be wrong, but the wrong is muted simply because in that particular society, it is considered acceptable.
Yeah.
Just one generation away from mine, in my father's generation, the norm was to marry a young girl. This 18-year-old thing is a story. It was 16, 17,
Sure.
let's say,
14,
14 and
Talk to people and ask them some of the grandmothers they had. I had a grandmother who was not married as the first wife. She was replaced because her sister, who had been married by my grandfather, ran off. So she was given as a replacement.
So take this one, since that one has gone.
That one has taken off.
Yeah, she was given as a replacement, but she was young. I think she was around 12, 13. So she actually lived in my grandmother's house so that she could grow up.
Wow.
And she and my father became very close friends because they were more or less the same age. So what am I saying? I am saying that such a story told now, you wonder, God Almighty. At that point in time, it was not considered an issue at all.
Yeah.
We are battling this issue in certain parts of this country simply because child marriages is still considered to be okay.
Yeah.
And yet cervical cancer has a very direct link
To a
young woman being engaged, one, in sexual activity, having children at that young age. So all I'm saying is there's a lot of information we now have, but that information constantly fights against norms and cultures that people have had for the longest time.
Yeah.
The war that Eastern European countries now going over to the west of Europe and then going over into the further Western Hemisphere, the United States and such, is actually quite serious. If you're looking at statistics of number of those who actually have been trafficked from the Balkan states, the former USSR, some of those countries after the Balkanization, then moving over, is quite a lot. And this controversy was actually reported, a number of outlets did this story early on in the year and late last year, is that you see these stories that we hear of people on the western part of Africa getting onto dinghies and then trying to cross over into Europe. The problem of girls between the age of 14 and 20 being trafficked within Europe is actually more serious than this that we see of Africans trying to get into Europe. It's just not talked about as much. Secondly, the slave trade that we're talking about over the last 10 years or so, 20 years, has not stopped. It has just become more sophisticated.
Yes.
And labels have been put on it to make it sound as though it's business. But what we're looking at is the trade of humans.
Yeah.
It still continues.
It does.
Whether it happens in Western Europe, whether it happens in the United States, it is still the trade of human beings. And this is what we're talking about here. It doesn't matter if you're the son of the Queen of England or you're somebody in backwoods Ondo State in Nigeria who is passing somebody off to be a sex slave. You are doing the same thing. Nothing sets you apart from one to the other. It's still happening. It's still a very serious issue. And I think when we're talking about bodies that need to be instituted to deal with this thing, the only thing that we have right now is UNICEF. To a certain degree. But what are they doing? Communicating about the reality on the ground, as opposed to us having an institution on the planet that deals with this thing directly. Like you have Interpol, like you say, that talks about, that deals with certain crimes and such. But there is not one globally instituted to handle this thing. There are very many organizations that talk about it. There are those who say raise your awareness about what could be happening with your child, what could be happening in your community. But in terms of jurisdiction, prosecution, awareness directed at this, it's not.
Yeah. For example, a society such as America's, which, looking at what was happening to their own population because of drugs that were coming from South America especially, they set up the DEA. Because they realized that what we need to do is not just deal with it when the drugs are here. Is look at how to track back, understand who is trafficking in the country, and understand how the drugs are getting here. Despite all the efforts by the Coast Guard and everybody else, but these things are still getting here. So send even agents to those countries. But do we see an establishment of a unit that deals with human trafficking, knowing full well the number of people who actually end up on their shores as trafficked human beings, and then they even end up with these rich people saying, because this thing is happening so undercover, then we also need a specialized unit to deal with this.
You know, because the people who are being trafficked in many cases are already voiceless in this sense.
Completely vulnerable.
They're already vulnerable, yes, underprivileged. They need someone to speak on their behalf.
For sure.
Yes. And even when they're trafficked, they still don't have a voice.
They don't have a voice. You can imagine if your custodian for everything on the planet, everything, your health, your education, your everything is the one who is giving you up. Where are you going to start? Will you open your mouth and say, I won't go? Will you open your mouth then when you get to wherever it is you're going and say, I will not? Because you don't know left from right. You don't know where you have come. You don't know where you're going.
Do you know what is interesting? If you look at even traditions, in many African societies, one of the things that people did, they ensured that there was community responsibility for your relatives. So those who were less economically empowered ended up sending children to live with the more empowered.
Yes.
There was that. So people grew up in that setup. But there are even cases where parents more or less handed over some of their children to some of their relatives. But it was understood that this was to get them to be educated, to get them to have a footing in life, but the understanding was that they would also help. They were slightly older than the children of that family, and they would help with the day-to-day chores of the family. One saw it in a rural setting, one saw it in a town setting. And many people will tell you, I for one, of how we lived with very many relatives. In fact, to the point where you grew up believing that a house should be full of people.
Yes, it's true.
Yes.
It's
now,
true.
You take that to the next level where the disparity, the economic disparity is as great as it is right now in this day and age. Now, you tell me that mindset that gets carried over. Do you see how easy it is for people to move from a situation where you're actually doing the right thing by your people to actually get into a place where you're now trading in people? Literally.
It's a big one. I was just looking at the website of the U.S. State Department of State on the issue of human trafficking. They actually have given it a bit, quite a bit of space on this. National Human Trafficking Hotline, they have established one. They have reports as recent as 2020, Trafficking in Persons Report, the Attorney General's annual report to Congress on U.S. government activities to combat trafficking in persons. What I was asking about is the establishment of specific units and specialized units that would deal in trafficked humans. They even say, the U.S. itself says, it's hard to actually tell how many people are being trafficked because it's something that's happening undercover. But there's also the issue of human trafficking versus the bringing in of immigrants, migrant smuggling. They treat them differently. Human trafficking is distinct from the separate crime of migrant smuggling. Human trafficking occurs when a trafficker uses force, fraud, or coercion to compel another person to work or engage in a commercial sex act and does not require crossing a border. By contrast, migrant smugglers engage in a crime of bringing people across international borders through deliberate evasion of immigration laws. While these are distinct crimes, individuals who are smuggled may become vulnerable to and become victims of human trafficking. So there's a correlation there, although there's a difference. Numbers are a big thing, and numbers matter. What numbers matter to you on a daily basis? Is it the number of trips that you want to make to Shags this year? Is it the number of times that I've seen my friend Alex Musikeri Kuseren this year? How to make those trips? What is it that you need to actually realize your numbers? Talk to NCBA Bank and they'll help you in terms of what you need to get there. they don't just look at your numbers, they look at the impact of the numbers that you go seeking from them. NCBA Bank, go for it. 24 minutes to 8 o'clock. Let's take a look at weather and traffic, and then we have more conversations. Good morning.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Losing a loved one is never easy. The lingering memories, the what-ifs, but in all the gloom, we find ways of celebrating them. And here at the Standard Tributes, we aim to give your loved ones that befitting send-off.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
People say that happiness is a choice. I say that happiness is a series of choices, like opening a smart direct account and paying 100 bob a month for retrenchment cover of up to 450,000, life insurance cover of up to 900,000, funeral cover of up to 100,000, and mobile loans of up to 3 million. Download the Stanbic mobile banking app and open a smart direct account today. Niko sawa na smart direct account. Terms and conditions apply. Stanbic Bank Kenya Limited is licensed and regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya. Stanbic Bank. It can be. People say that happiness is a choice. I say that happiness is a series of choices, like opening a smart direct account and paying 100 bob a month for retrenchment cover of up to 450,000, life insurance cover of up to 900,000.
The weather with Spice FM.
Okay, cloudy conditions still in Nairobi, a little bit of rain here and there. Going through today, we will then see highs of 22 and lows of 14 in the city. Light rain in Nyeri at 14, highs of 20 and lows of 13. 23 will be the high in Nakuru, it's cloudy at 15. Mostly cloudy conditions at 14 in Eldoret, highs of 22 and lows of 12. 18 will be the low in a rainy Kisumu now at 19. It's also 19 and mostly cloudy in Kakamega, highs of 26 and lows of 14. 22 will be the low in Mombasa, where there's light rain at 24, highs of 28. 28 will be the high in Malindi, where it's raining, also at 26. It's raining in Kampala at 19, highs of 27. 29 will be the high in a foggy Dar es Salaam at 20. 6 degrees and cloudy in Johannesburg with highs of 18 today and lows of 6. Mostly clear conditions in Lagos this morning at 24 with highs of 29. And 31 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Kinshasa at 24. It'll come down to lows of 22. Okay, a little bit of traffic in industrial area, but not too bad. Coming off Jogo Road as well, not too packed. Getting onto Landis Road. Langata Road is where today doesn't look too good at all. The southern bypass, then connecting with Langata Road, it looks okay getting through into the city. Now, that Mlolongo area, getting towards the SGR is not good at all. A lot of traffic there this morning. And everybody's crying, can the contractor please take us into consideration, because it doesn't look pretty. Single lane traffic for all that morning traffic going outbound. Folks are going to be stuck there for a while. We'll keep an eye on things though. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Are you ready? Okay. Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4
Okay,
Spice FM,
20 minutes
Nairobi.
to 8. What's that image that you were projecting on the screen, Ndu?
Also, unfortunately, we're looking at Mombasa Road, where the part of the road that's being constructed, joining with the expressway, there's a gaping hole in the middle of the road. And this is on the service lane just around Nation Printers. And a vehicle has fallen in. There's no signage. This was last night when it was raining.
This is in Mololongo.
Yes. And now we are seeing that problem again this morning with a lot of traffic there. It doesn't look pretty at all. If anything...
What is that? How is that a gaping? What's that? Because from this image, it's like the road goes and there's an underpass.
It does look like an underpass. Now, that's where the road used to be. So what's happening is that the main highway now is being...
dug up,
right? So there's no signage in terms of where the digging up has occurred. So where there was road and you've come out, you've driven expecting that the road is still there because it was yesterday. Now you've entered into this hole because you can see where the digging has stopped, right there. The digging has stopped and they are likely to continue tomorrow morning. So you come and you enter the hole. Signage is important, my friends.
It's not just signage. There has to be some indication that there's a barrier.
A barrier even. And they've done well in other areas. I don't know why this would have been an issue. Maybe the rain scared people away.
This really is the issue. Because it isn't that you have signage in other areas and in others you don't have.
It has to be through and through.
Well, yes.
Boss, that's a big one.
If this was the road, do you know how the mind works?
It will still be there in the morning.
That's what you follow.
Yeah.
So for you to change your mind, there has to be something stopping you from doing what you normally do.
This is at night. It's raining. You're heading home. You're tired. Who are you going to call? Come on.
Yeah.
Hey. You'll tell us about the judiciary shortly. I just seen some keen interest in a photo here. ABSA, the bank, has unveiled a new platform for banking. Not where you walk into the banking hall and then you find a raised platform for you to sit and have your cookies, CT, but they're basically saying that you can now make transactions by basically chatting on WhatsApp.
Huh?
Okay. And there's a legal framework for this.
Yeah.
City needs to see the framework.
Let me explain to you why I asked this. Next, you're going to be told that, you can simply have a digital signature. You can, Now, if I understand banks as I do, the one thing that banks are strong on is just what I've mentioned, the legal framework and the legality of it, and the fine details that normally follow.
Yeah.
So, good stuff.
I think it's the same way. If you have an app, and then you've already gone and registered the app, this telephone number is the one that is associated to this account, which is held by CT Muga in this bank.
Yes.
So this is once you go and download, if your number is not registered with the bank, you'll not be able to open that app.
The app, yes.
Right?
You go by your number.
Could be the same thing. Go by your number, and you're the one then who can access the WhatsApp, and then you'll be able to chat with the other person, the customer agent on the other end, and you give instructions, transfer X amount to Muga, these account details, blah, blah. And they tell you, are you sure? Yes. Okay.
You don't like it?
No, I'm just thinking of some of the perils that we've actually had with people who... Remember there was a time when people would be waited for at ATMs. No harm would come to you. That is, of course, if you had a vehicle with a big enough boot, because you'd generally be housed in that particular boot of your vehicle. Then they'd drive around with you and ensure that whatever proceeds you had in your account were dissipated. Okay? I know of a case because it happened to people I happen to know. They had their drink spiked and phones taken. Everything they had on their phone, whether it was M-Shwari or M-Not-So-Shwari or everything, including what was in their accounts from their phone. They can't remember how they gave the information, but all of it went. Now, I'm sure there'll be safeguards with this app, but I'm simply saying...
The risk is still there, even now with your app, because you have a mobile app. mobile banking app on your phone. It's the same. You'll be waylaid and you can...
This one is even worse.
Can hold a gun and they'll tell you, just log in.
This one is worse.
Just log in, and maybe this one even has limits. This one, the app, just log in, weka pin yako, bas, sasa transfer.
All I'm saying is that whenever you have something of this sort with so many privileges, I'm simply drawing attention to the fact that the benefits will come with some
risk.
Yes. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's a very good thing.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing. But
it's making banking easier with technology. We'll get these guys to come, and tell us this digital people. What is it, like head of digital channels from ABSA, Andrew Muithega. If you're listening to us, there's an open invitation. Kuja tuambie hii maneno hii nasema nini. We were talking about the judiciary earlier.
Right, so just looking at recent developments, I mean, what we saw in the last couple of weeks with Justice Chitembwe and Justice Mushelule. Yes. And then what we heard coming from Chief Justice herself, Martha Koome, when she says to Parliament, you're having these proceedings over and over and over again. You're calling my officers to you to come and represent for one thing or the other. You summon somebody today, another committee summons them tomorrow, somebody else is summoning them the day after. Come on, guys. Let's streamline this thing, because after all, it's not just the judiciary. This is an arm of government with important matters and an important position in government to fulfill. When we're looking at the three arms of government, right? The estates, the executive, the legislature, the judiciary. We didn't say now that the judiciary is the abandoned love child of the government.
Yeah.
No. You are saying that it is an arm of government specifically positioned to carry out a particular role. Now, what it would appear with maybe heads of the judiciary who were previously not so open in their opinion or loud in their opinion was that these things were ignored and shoved under the carpet. And then we continue to talk about things like the independence of the judiciary, when the judiciary doesn't control the purse. We then talk about, the judiciary has a role to play. And I'm saying that certain things ought to be looked at. The way in which the legislature, for example, handles the judiciary. The way in which security agencies such as the police, the DCI, whomever handle the judiciary, because it would be assumed that, we can just walk in and do whatever we want without realizing that indeed this is an arm of government which is said to be independent. So, with the things that we are seeing and the utterances that we've heard come from the Chief Justice, I do believe it is about time that this is being given a look at to say, how are we actually handling this arm of government? And I'm just going to say the judiciary. I'm insisting this arm of government. How have they been handled and how should they be handled?
You think they're being treated like...
the abandoned love child of the government.
Or stepchild.
In fact, that's it. The abandoned stepchild of the government. That, okay, they're there, we know they're there, but, we'll deal with them in an offhand manner. Meanwhile, the responsibility of justice in this country rests on their shoulders, and it's not a small responsibility. This is heavy stuff we're talking about. When things go untoward, you send them to the judiciary. When you want justice to be expended,
judiciary.
Adjudication,
judiciary.
But then you want to treat them anyhow. And I actually agree with Chief Justice on many of those when she said, then you're summoning my people anyhow. Why can't you think of a way in which this committee knows, this committee knows? Why can't we streamline all of these things? We're not denying you this information. We're ready to give you the information. However, you cannot assume that we're just here for you to call us. We don't have anything else to do.
Everything that you say is spot on. Everything the Chief Justice said is spot on. The thing that I actually wonder is, why take it to the public domain? Because why must it be a discussion in the media? Why is it that all these bosses, these people who head these institutions, why can't they have a discussion about it? Or have they had a discussion and they didn't seem to come to some understanding?
It's called public participation.
Court of public opinion, interestingly enough, being invited by the judiciary themselves.
It's called washing dirty linen in public, because what you are then doing is pointing to something that may actually not exist, but it gives the impression that there is a standoff and there is a tiff.
Or it could be that you tried previously and no attention was given, but if you put it in the public domain, then the attention that is required, that light will then be shown.
Also, CT, these are public entities. They're public offices. What is wrong with raising a matter like such as that one publicly? You are not saying that, you know what, you're basically saying, let's have this conversation. And you're raising it so that also the public understands this is what's happening. This happens and this needs to happen. If a decision is ever made, you'll not be saying, you know, those people went and discussed and they came up with their own underhand deals behind closed doors. No. The public will actually have walked the journey.
Yes, that is a really positive way of looking at it.
Because you see, when the legislature is doing its work, it's public. When it's making its laws, public. When it's debating, it's public. When it's engaging and now saying, okay, so Mr. Speaker, sir, now we want to present this report of the Public Accounts Committee, having interrogated the Auditor General's report, and this is what we found, that the judiciary has actually flouted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They'll be making it public. When this officer is summoned to come before the Parliament, it will be public. So if the Chief Justice is responding and saying, okay, guys, as I write to you, Honorable Speaker, let me also have this as a public conversation. Let the public also know that I have written to you. What's wrong with that?
There's absolutely nothing wrong. I am simply pointing to a simple issue, and this is, it is often understood that a salient point of engagement often requires that you build something we call social capital with people you work with, so that there is what we call an understanding. And with that understanding will come what you call an accommodation. Okay? So, if something is brought to the public domain by the head of an institution, then, you see, all sorts of insinuations then are brought into play.
Yeah.
Permeation that didn't exist before. As in, hey, by the time it's getting here, what on earth is going on? Now, it could be simple public participation, as you say, and we now have a public-minded Chief Justice who believes that things of this nature the public ought to be informed about. Now, you see, if you open that discussion, you'd better be ready for its eventualities. Because then we'll expect you to be telling us
everything.
Yes. For instance, tell us why it is that these two judges were picked upon. Just for instance. Why these two? It's in the public domain.
Yep.
It was made in the public domain. Now, again...
Already that is public. Because when the case is brought before court, the proceedings in court are open to the public.
Already, the discussions are taking place because Justice Muchelule has already gone to court to try and put a halt to his prosecution. And there's an interesting discussion about it from the DPP's office and also from the police service.
Yes.
Now, it is good that the public is informed about these things. What I am saying is just the little consideration of, should we say, building not just a rapport, but goodwill. Because something of that sort, to me, speaks of an absence of goodwill. So you say, okay, folks, fine. So if this is where we are, then this is how we're going to handle it.
To Pelek and Bele.
Yes, because I remember the response from Parliament.
Yeah.
It was, so that's it. Okay.
You must come, or else we will deny you of cash. You see, even that, I agree with what Ndu is saying. Now, just using that response, that we are treating the judiciary as the abandoned stepchild.
Yes.
Because if the Chief Justice is basically saying, okay, let's work out modalities of summoning people from the judiciary to the parliamentary committees and investigations, and then the Speaker of the National Assembly says, you know, we're just doing our job. If you don't come, you know, we have tools that we can use. We can starve you of cash.
And how will you work?
How do you just casually say that you can starve the judiciary of cash?
Because they can. This is the point.
That's the thing. You can, but you shouldn't even be able to.
You shouldn't be able to.
But folks, you see...
You should not be able to.
In saying what you're saying...
We should be ring fencing, in fact, and say...
They should
who
be
was it who was
them,
talking about that the other day?
anything.
Was it Jeremiah Kioni, the CIOC chair, when he was here? Saying, you know, some of these bodies, for example, we should be making sure that we establish a judiciary fund. And it's very clear that this is how much. We don't have to discuss How
Yes.
you now come and spend that money is what we shall be auditing.
But it's yours.
Not
But
that
we
you are
know
spending it. Yeah.
X% of the budget is going to this arm of parliament, of government, judiciary. X% is going to the parliament, the legislature. And it's clear. How you spend the money is what now we shall be discussing. Here we are still at that point of...
Are we not even going to give you?
Look,
Buana.
do you really imagine, for instance, that even with the new constitution, that the vestiges of our former constitution have actually departed from us? Every arm of government wants a certain degree of control. So those who seem to have an upper hand seem to want to exert it on the others. Look, the national government, I think, understands this very well. And that is why they keep playing poodle with the funds. Okay? We'll dole it out when we want. If not, we'll shut up. I mean, it's almost infantile. But look at, if you want to understand it, look at how this is playing out with the Law Society of Kenya. I mean, that drama is as infantile as any drama can get. And you're thinking, what on earth are these people thinking doing what they're doing?
It's a brave new bar.
Okay. It's a brave new court. It's a brave new legislative arm. It's a brave new judiciary.
I agree with what you're raising, Ndu, this morning. In terms of, we all should get to a point where we understand that the judiciary is as important as the legislature.
Absolutely.
As important as the executive. And when you see moves, for example, by MPs saying, we are elected by the people. The head of the executive is elected by the people. None of you is elected by anybody. Who do you represent? I mean, that surely...
Because you're then appointed, because you're appointed by the executive, therefore, in terms of your potency as an arm of government is then reduced because you are not elected by the people. So we're looking at election by the people as a prerequisite to control. Yeah.
You're getting at a direct supreme... But we have already said we shall exercise our sovereignty through those arms of government.
Yes.
When we have a representative of the people in the Judicial Service Commission committee interviewing the Chief Justice and identifying a Chief Justice, we're okay.
Just if somebody who is elected by the people and is a legislator can put forward that argument, I think let's not give it more light than it deserves. It is not only short-sighted, it is silly. How on earth do you put across such an argument when you know full well the purpose and the function of the judiciary? You know. And you understand it.
That's the unfortunate bit, because it's not just one person who's coming up with these things. It's one person who is saying these things and then is supported by very many. So then it begs to question that even this arm of government, do they really understand? It's like the other fingers of a hand.
They do understand, but
it cannot function in the way in which it's supposed to if you're not working in congruence.
You know what?
You should actually be supporting the other arms as opposed to hanging them out to dry.
No, that won't happen. They will not support the other arms. That's the thing you need to understand here, because everyone seems to be fighting.
But they do support the executive. You find legislature supporting the executive but not supporting the judiciary.
Because they get something from the executive.
Yes.
They don't always support each other. This is the point I'm trying to make. Because even we in the so-called fourth estate have similar issues. It's like each estate is trying to fight for its own survival.
Space.
Yes, an own space.
Yeah.
Okay? So the judiciary, I understand, has to come out fighting. Fine.
Let them go ahead.
Remember the argument I always bring about. When you talk about a constitutional moment and how we understand our constitution, this is it in the making. We are seeing it happen.
We are seeing our constitution being applied.
We are seeing it.
Keep it right here for more conversations. This is the Situation Room on SpiceFM, Kenya's biggest conversation with CT Muga, Nduoko and Eric Latif. Good morning. It's now 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Parents do not believe they can be refunded the extra school fees they paid despite an order by the Education Ministry. Kenya Parents Association Chair Nicholas Mayo says despite Education CS George Magoha's efforts to outline government set fees, head teachers remain defiant. The Education Ministry ordered secondary schools to refund fees charged beyond the amount recommended by the government. This is even as TSE CEO Nancy Macharia said they were investigating complaints of school charging illegal fees.
I want to direct that all heads of school stick to the stipulated school fees. Mr. Idimuli, please, you will help us here, and Nzioka, where there are levies. The TSC is investigating a few allegations that have been handed over to us by the Ministry of Education that some teachers are not complying with government directive on fees. Action will be taken on those few if they are found culpable.
Medical Practitioners Union KMPDU now wants governors to respect the strikes they hold to fight for their rights. Secretary General Devji Atela says they'll start by taking Laikipia Governor Nderitu Mreithi to court for failing to reinstate doctors who participated in a strike in his county in 2019 as ordered by the courts. Atela says the county should also pay the medics their full salary.
If the county fails to implement the decision of the court and the PSC decision, we are going to put the county government on contempt. That is, we are going to cite all the members of the County Public Service Board. We are going to cite the governor of Laikipia. We are going to cite the county secretary, the chief officer of finance, and the payroll managers within 7 days from today.
You can now submit your views on the 4 IBC commissioners appointed by President Uhuru Kenyatta last week. Meanwhile, the Parliamentary Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs is expected to hold sessions to approve the nominees on the 24th of this month. Uhuru nominated Juliana Cherera, Francis Wanderi, Irene Masit and Justice Nyang'aya before presenting their names to National Assembly Speaker Justin Muthui. The 4 were among the 36 candidates selected by the selection panel. If approved, the 4 are expected to replace Roslyn Akombe, Margaret Mwachanya, Paul Kurgat and former Deputy Chair Lady Consolata Minor, who resigned from the IBC. And finally, a 36-year-old expectant mother is fighting for her life at Bahati Sub-County Hospital after she consumed poisonous illicit brew in Bahati, Nakuru County. County Commissioner Erastus Mbui says they collected samples of the illicit brew and they are trying to investigate what led to the death of 5 others who also consumed the illicit brew. Residents have accused police of their failure to stop the vice. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Mombasa Road outbound today is not looking good at all, especially from the Way Bridge at Mlolongo out towards SGR. Overnight, that lane is one lane only, and the ICD route is probably going to offer the best. But if you're already stuck in this one you're going to have to sit out, and it doesn't look pretty from where we are sitting. Langata Road is also packed coming from the southern bypass. As you get onto Langata Road, out into the city, it's quite slow. Aerodrome Road giving good vibes out to Bunyala Road roundabout. Uhuru Highway from the Nyayo Stadium through to Westlands in and outbound is packed as well. Remember, there's that diversion between Kenyatta Avenue and the University Way roundabout, so watch out for that. A diversion, it'll take you a longer time to get in. We're also looking at traffic on Jogo Road today. Also, a little bit of traffic on Mombasa Road inbound and outbound around Imara Daima. So, Traffic Hour says a lot of things happening, especially on Thika Road today. We're also looking at it hot and heavy from Survey through to Pangani. Kiambu Road, that's another story completely. A mess. If you didn't leave early, you're stuck in this now. Let's keep hearing from you in terms of what it looks like. Hopefully, we'll be careful because it is still wet on the roads. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
Very good morning to you on this 11th day of August 2021. Happy Wednesday, wherever you're tuned in. Joining us on SpiceFM around the country, Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, or around the world on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or our website www.spicefm.co.ke, or on KTN Home, who've joined us now until the top of the hour. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. CT, today's proverb.
Don't blame God for creating the leopard. Just thank him for not giving it wings.
Don't blame God for creating the leopard. Just thank him for giving it wings.
For not giving it wings.
Not giving it wings.
Eric, am I to understand that the area you come from, they are leopards with wings?
Eh?
You heard me.
Well, I don't hear people blaming God for that's why I'm just... I gave up with your proverb from the first sentence.
Syllable. You forget. Leopard, wings.
People blaming God for leopard. Who blames God for anything?
Be shocked too.
But there's I want to blame someone today. You can show us that image again, Ndu, of what was happening along Mombasa Road last night. And this is during this construction of the expressway, right? So the expressway begins at Mlolongo, thereabouts near Gateway Mall.
Yes.
Yeah. Goes all the way to ABC Place. And it's taken away. It's taken over a year, and there's diversions here and there. There's, restriction of traffic, lanes being reduced to one or two. Others, there's some diversion. You get off the road, and then you come back onto the road, and the inconvenience that it causes. And there's all this conversation of persevere the inconvenience. It's for a brighter future. There's some inconvenience that is understandable. And there's some inconvenience that, in my opinion, is just pointing to negligence. It's not inconvenience because this is happening. It's just pure negligence. So, for instance, at that place, you're saying it's near the Nation Printing Plant?
Yeah, Nation Printing Plant. So there's that single lane there. And so what has happened is that part of the road is being dug up. Right? So there's no signage, or rather, is there any diversion signs pointing to the fact that this particular part of the road is being worked on? So what has happened is that a hole has been created in the road, and we've had a vehicle that had now fallen into that part because the road is literally being dug up to provide space for the rest of the expressway to then be constructed. So you have a gaping hole in the middle of the road, and somebody who used that road earlier in the day expected that the road would still be there when they are coming from work in the evening, and voila, they find themselves
it's at
submerged.
night, it's raining, the road is wet,
visibility is poor,
and then you just go and find end of the road. There
Literally.
you are in a ditch. This happened also a couple of months back. Remember?
Yes.
Near Toyota Kenya.
Yes.
At the Nyayo Stadium roundabout.
Yes.
One morning, they're digging up the road, and then they've announced that, we're going to close a section of the road, but then it's not clear. Somebody who had not seen that sign, that notice on social media does not know, and you're rushing to the airport in the morning. A vehicle went and did the same.
Yes.
Those are extremes. The simple ones of just creating a diversion. You're on this lane, and then there's a diversion for 50 meters, you come back to the lane. But that diversion is completely immotorable. And you're asking yourself, so if you cannot really just create a smooth diversion, what are we talking about, an inconvenience? Or are we just talking about negligence?
You're telling us you're building a multi-billion shilling road and a diversion. And the diversion is not even a kilometer.
No.
It's a few hundred meters. And it's virtually impassable. You're on that road and you're wondering, God Almighty.
What is happening here?
Yes.
This morning, for the last 2 weeks or so, from ABC Place, not ABC Place, from the mall in Westlands, coming towards town, there's a diversion.
Yes, there is.
and then you come and join the road again at near Galileo.
Mm.
Now, the place where you're joining the road at Galileo is basically potholes. So you can imagine people who are driving, coming all the way from Western Kenya, wherever. You get to that point, 30 kilometers per hour, and then you come and do 0 kph so that you can get into a diversion. We can talk about inconveniences and all, but there are some things that just go beyond inconvenience. This is just sheer negligence. I'm avoiding using the word incompetence. I don't want to use the word incompetence. I just want to use the word negligence.
You don't want to use incompetence?
I don't want to use the word incompetence. Okay. And my complaint is to the CS in charge of transport, infrastructure, housing, urban development, James Masharia, and then the principal secretary in charge of infrastructure, Professor Architect Paul Maringa, and the Director General of the Kenya National Highways Authority, Engineer Peter Mandinia. You're the people who are in charge of this project. This is a complaint. Let's talk about agriculture, where we're not complaining about food security, despite the fact that we have food insecurity in the country and there are people who are facing starvation. But let's look towards the future. AgriTalk, where on this show we have conversations every so often promoting food security, agribusiness, and everything else, and looking at how we can get ourselves into better productivity and better than consumption and growing of our food. Having this conversation this morning is Eustace Carey. He is the CEO of the Kenya Organic Agriculture Network. And what we want to discuss today is something he'll explain to us, because we looked at it and we were like, I don't understand. Ecological Organic Agriculture. Eustace, karibu sana to the Situation Room. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
We call that the hot seat. Don't mind about all the complaints that we're doing. Ali was speaking on your behalf. Now, this is a friendly conversation. We just put you on the hot seat, and then you enjoy the heat as you've come from a cold place outside there, and it's warm in here. So we can understand what a organic agriculture is, and then you tell us about ecological organic agriculture. Let's start with the organic agriculture, and then you can move to the new one.
Thank you very much for having me and having this discussion. As you rightly said, my name is Carey Eustace. I work for Kenya Organic Agriculture Network, where we promote organic agriculture. And why I promote organic agriculture is because, one, of food safety. There are numerous studies that have been done in the recent years that have shown that most of the products that we are consuming in the market are contaminated, either with pesticide residues or hormones or antibiotics and the rest of it. So we promote organic, excuse me. We promote organic because we want to promote safe foods to our people. And secondly is that organic agriculture practices sustain the health of the soils so that the soils can give or yield to healthy plants, healthy people, and healthy environment.
So organic is when you don't use pesticides and chemicals?
Not when you don't use pesticides, when you don't use synthetic pesticides. There are pesticides that are allowed in organic.
Okay.
The notion out there is that when you talk about organic, is where you just plant and wait for God to give you rains, and then they are not affected by pests.
Yeah.
Organic agriculture is a management system, just like the conventional one. It's only that some products are not allowed in organic, that are allowed in conventional.
Explain this a little bit. So you're saying there's some pesticides which are organic?
Yes.
Okay. Can you give an example of, not by the trademark names, but the sort of, for instance, if I use cow dung as manure, that's organic?
That's allowed in organic. And we encourage people to compost the manure.
Aha. Now explain this organic versus non-organic so that it's understood. Because anything that, in my mind as a layman, when I hear organic...
Anything you've bought from the shop.
Yeah, organic.
It's packaged, it's organic.
So, please.
Yeah, the difference is the content of the product. If you look at the active ingredients in most of the conventional products, are usually synthetically made. For the ones that are allowed in organic, are usually extracts from either plants or a combination of biological living things. So the difference is the ingredients in the product that you are using. For fertilizers, most of the synthetic fertilizers are resultants of petrochemicals.
Yeah.
But for organic fertilizers, they are usually from either composting or extracts or biological living organisms. Yes.
So remember, like the conversation we had, and I think you can correct me here, Eustace, the conversation we had with the Mwalimu from Isipe the other day when we were talking about mangoes and looking at pre-harvest and post-harvest management of mangoes in Makueni in the project that they were running. And they said that they came up with this particular pest that can eat the other pest that
is bothering
our mangoes.
Yes.
So that is now what
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Yeah.
Not going into creating these things from petrochemicals.
Yeah.
I see. So then what is ecological organic agriculture?
There are many terms that are used to refer to organic agriculture. There's ecological organic agriculture, there's permaculture, some people call it sustainable agriculture. And the difference is, if you look at the similarities, is the principles behind the practices. The only difference is that either permaculture focuses more on the design, ecological organic agriculture incorporates both certified and the non-certified. But where the ecological organic agriculture term came from is that in 2011, in the ordinary session of the African Union Heads of State, they made a decision to support organic agriculture. And in their decision to support organic farming in Africa, they came up with an initiative called Ecological Organic Agriculture Initiative, which is a Pan-African initiative to promote organic agriculture in Africa. That's where the ecological organic agriculture term came from. Yeah.
All right. Looking at the common practice in the country, and even if we're looking beyond on the continent, it would seem that, and correct me if I'm wrong, it would seem that the synthetic way that you're talking about now, albeit the more dangerous when it comes to food safety, is the easier and cheaper option. Is that the case? That organic agriculture is actually more expensive to start and to maintain than is the other side of things?
ISIPE, it's good that you have mentioned ISIPE, together with other organizations such as CARO, the Kenya Agriculture Research Organization. They have undertaken long-term trials comparing organic systems and conventional systems for over 15 years. And their conclusion is that organic has done well than the conventional systems. In terms of productivity, in terms of economic profitability. Now, you ask yourself, why then is that not many people are getting to organic? One is about information, access to information. Not many people know. Organic agriculture is very knowledge intensive because if you're not using synthetic chemicals, then what alternatives do you have? Not many people know about these alternatives. And why is that? One of the reasons is that if you look at the education system, most of the graduates are trained on the conventional way. If you look at the research that has been done, most of it is towards the conventional way.
Right.
So people are inclined to adopt what they have been trained on. What is if you look at also the products, the conventional products are more than the organic products.
But comparing the two, conventional ways of agriculture and organic agriculture, for example, which is more expensive to practice?
the conventional.
The conventional is more expensive.
Yeah.
All right. So this could give rise to then why it's still being used, because there's a lack of information. People just don't know that it's more expensive to use the conventional form. People don't understand or have not been made privy to the benefits that organic agriculture actually would have. All right. So what has been done, or what is being done to then invite the proliferation of this information? How is it being spread?
Yeah, under the initiative that I talked about, for example, in Kenya, we have come together 4 organizations, that is Egerton University, Farm Kenya, which is a subsidiary of Standard Media Group, and Kenya Organic Agriculture Network, to bring together the expertise and experience of the different organizations. One, in terms of research, to validate some of the practices that farmers are practicing, Egerton University would undertake this research. And also to validate some of the products in the market. You know, there are very many products in the market that are labeled organic, but, you know, the authenticity of that and whether they work, some of them are questionable. So we've come together so that Egerton, based on their expertise and experience in research, can help in validating the products and also the practices. Now, in terms of getting the information out, Farm Kenya, because again of its reach, will be packaging the information that will be coming from Egerton University to disseminate to farmers, extension officers, consumers, and to really show that, you know, organic works. And for us, as COAN, our key strength is in market development.
Sure.
So we'll be looking at developing both local markets and also export markets. We are currently working with greengrocers, some supermarkets like Carrefour, who have established organic sections within their supermarket outlets.
Okay.
That is at the market end. But how about the production end? What are you doing to have more and more farmers actually producing like almost 100% of their produce as organic? And then you have certified that as truly has that cabbage of corn or whoever, that this is truly organic.
Yeah, under the partnership, we are developing a platform, an online platform where an ordinary farmer, if they're growing tomatoes, for example, using a USD code or a smartphone, can request or can access the platform. If they're growing tomatoes, for example, and they have a challenge of blight, the system will be able to advise the farmer on the good agricultural practices that they need to adopt, the organic products available in the market, and also the less toxic products that they can use. So the approach is that it's three steps.
Okay.
Good agricultural practices so that you can avoid the infection. 2, the biological pesticides available, and the less toxic. And our intention is to reach before the end of this year 500,000 farmers, so that you know, they can produce organically.
Right.
Of course, there are other producers who are already organic, currently practicing organic, but our intention is to expand.
How does this affect the general? So if you look at the entire process, the chain, how does it then affect food security and safety? Because oftentimes you say food security, and the assumption is that if we have enough food for a sustainable period of time, then we've achieved food security. But then not looking at food safety and saying, okay, what are we actually consuming as a nation of people? How healthy are our people as a result of what is being consumed? Now, looking at these processes that start in the beginning, how would it affect the end result of what then the population as a whole is ingesting?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because mainly at times we always talk about food security without talking about food safety. And from some of the studies, or most of the studies that have been undertaken, most of the foods that we are buying from our markets have pesticide residues. And what we are doing in this partnership is to ensure that consumers can access safe food. That producers will not be using the toxic pesticides that will have residues within the food. So the resultant of that is that you have a safer nation, a healthier nation, because most of the pesticide residues we are talking about, they have been attributed to chronic illnesses, such as cancer, diabetes, and allergies, among others. And so what we're doing is that we want organic foods to be accessible, to be affordable, and that every Kenyan can be able to consume safe, nutritious food.
There's a discussion, though, that is taking place in my mind with regards to what you call the synthetic additives that we use in the production of the foods we eat. Now, what seems to be implied is that they are not necessarily safe and they're not necessarily the best way to go. Is this a figment of my imagination or am I framing my argument correctly?
No, it's true that most of the pesticides, for example, that are used are not usually safe.
Now, why I bring forth this argument is because I want to understand what it is that your organization does to lobby or to have discussion with the government so that we actually halt the importation of these things. Because so long as that option exists in whatever form, then whatever process you are pushing forward will always be hampered. Because an option that may even appear to be cheaper or maybe advertised as being advantageous and yet harmful is still there. So if that bit isn't taken care of in my mind, then even as you put forth this very, very, very necessary way of doing things into operation, your progress may not be quite what you purpose it to be.
It may be a slow burning one, it'll take a while. It requires the government to actually make it a policy at some point on how to do this. And that's why we're having this conversation, how to mainstream ecological organic agriculture into agricultural systems in Africa. And let's just start with in Kenya. So what is it that needs to be done? You'll tell us when you after we take this break. The conversation this morning is AgriTalk, promoting conversations on agribusiness, food security, and food safety as well. Having a conversation with Eustace Carey, CEO of the Kenya Organic Agriculture Network, and they're in partnership with Egerton University and Farm Kenya. Farm Kenya is by the Standard Group. After the break, we'll also be joined by Njoki Thuo. She is the project lead at Farm Kenya to understand what needs to be done so we can promote, entrenchment and mainstreaming of organic agriculture into our agricultural systems. What needs to happen from the government level, from organizations such as yourselves, from consumers such as us, from producers such as us as well. 28 minutes after 8, we are live on KTN Home, SpiceFM, and online. We will be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life 24/7 around the world non-stop. This is Spice FM.
At NCBA, we know it's more than a car loan. It's the many road trips you make. Call 0711 056 444 or visit ncbagroup.com for more information on asset finance. At NCBA Bank, the numbers that matter to you matter to us.
The FKF Premier League enters the round of 32 with exciting soccer action this week. On Thursday, Ulinzi Stars face FC Leopards. On Friday, Tusker FC play the Kakamega Homeboys. And on Saturday, Gor Mahia take on Bidco United. All matches are exclusive to BTV, Channel 172 on aerial decoder and 463 on satellite, and will be played at 3:15 p.m. Get connected to Star Times for only 999 shillings on aerial decoder or 2,699 shillings on satellite. Star Times, the official broadcaster of the FKF Premier League.
24/7 around the world non-stop. This is Spice FM.
please.
People say that happiness is a choice. I say that happiness is a series of choices, like opening a smart direct account and paying 100 bob a month for retrenchment cover of up to 450,000, life insurance cover of up to 900,000, funeral cover of up to 100,000, and mobile loans of up to 3 million. Download the Stanbic mobile banking app and open a smart direct account today. Nico Sawa na smart direct account. Terms and conditions apply. Stanbic Bank Kenya Limited is licensed and regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya. Stanbic Bank. It can be.
The weather
Light rain
with
continues in Nairobi
SpiceFM.
at 16, highs of 22 and lows of 14 today. It's also raining in Nyeri at 15, highs of 20 and lows of 13. 14 will be the low in a cloudy Nakuru, currently at 16. Mostly cloudy conditions in Eldoret at 16, highs of 22 and lows of 12. And we'll see highs of 26 in Kisumu. It's mostly cloudy at 21. That's what it is as well in Kakamega. Highs of 26 and lows of 14. Mostly cloudy conditions in Mombasa at 25. Highs of 28 and lows of 22. It's raining in Malindi at 26 with highs of 28. It'll come down to lows of 23. And 18 will be the low in a mostly sunny Kampala. Highs of 27. We'll see highs of 29 in Dar es Salaam, where it continues to fog over at 22. And mostly cloudy conditions at 6 in Johannesburg with highs of 18. Light rain at 24 now in Lagos. Highs of 29 and coming back down to lows of 24. It's cloudy in Kinshasa at 22. There's a high chance of rain. Highs of 31 and lows of 22. All right, so still that headache continues on Mombasa Road outbound today, right around the SGR, that single lane route. Now, a lot of folks, you can use the ICD route, the longer route out, but then you will not be subjected to this traffic. Come out at General Motors or then heading out towards the southern bypass. So there's that option of the longer, less stressful route. You might want to consider that. Langata Road also continues to be an issue, moving along slowly through to the Timor roundabout. Within the city, and not looking too bad right now, but all roads still lead to the city, and it's slow from Kamkunji Landis Road, it's slow from Gong Road, and slow coming out of Westlands. So pick your poison here, basically. It just will take some time to get out of it. It's 8:30. Let's see what it looks like in a short while. At SpiceFM KE, that's where you can talk to us, just in case you get stuck somewhere. If you find a good route, share that too, won't you? SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
Conversation continues right here in Spice FM, 27 minutes to 9. Having a conversation about food security, food safety, and agribusiness with Eustace Carey, the CEO of the Kenya Organic Agriculture Network. Joining us on the line is Jokidhu, Farm Kenya project lead. And the conversation is about mainstreaming ecological organic agriculture into Kenya's agricultural systems. As we were going to the break, Eustace, City asked you, so first of all, confirmed that yes, many of the pesticides in the market have some residual harm. And then the other question was, City?
If steps are not taken to ensure that this harm is stopped from its very source, of course I'm rephrasing what I said, then all these processes, these organic processes that we are discussing here, well, not only will they come against a bulwark, but the benefits that we hope to derive from these processes will be watered down completely by what's already available in the market.
That's a very good observation and true. And in 2019, a study was done by Root to Food that was looking at the pesticides that have been registered by the Pest Control Produce Board. And out of the 230 active ingredients that were registered then, 77 of them had been banned in Europe. And because of either their potential effect on chronic human health effects, persistence to the environment and pollinators, and also their potential toxicity on water. And what we did is that 3 organizations, ourselves, COAN, Root to Food Kenya, and Biba Kenya, and Rodi Kenya, we petitioned PCPB through the Parliamentary Committee on Health to have these chemicals withdrawn. And the Parliamentary Committee on Health made a report, and among the things they requested PCPB to make a work plan on how they are going to withdraw some of these products. We are glad that PCPB has taken some action. They did a circular early this year, and part of the active ingredients that they are looking to review, some of them are the ones that we had identified. We only wish that the process of review will not be that long, and that the products will be withdrawn from the market.
This is the Pest Control Products Board.
Yeah.
If you want to sell any of these, pest management products, you must go through Pest Control Products Board.
Yes.
Even if you're using the organic ones, like you said.
Yes.
And the process of getting this license is that the Pest Control Products Board has to see that this is actually applicable in the country.
Yes.
Right? At some point, they'll even require you to have a test farm, and you give them the report of how you've conducted the tests in the country before they allow you to start selling these products in the country.
Yeah.
True?
True.
We discussed this a bit, and that's why I'm taking you through those steps. Is because we discussed this a couple of weeks back when it was in the news, with the PCPB saying, now we even have a team that we've established to review some of these products that are being sold in the market, and to see which ones then we can continue licensing, and those that we can de-license from the Kenyan market. Several things that came out, though. One, no specific timelines. You're not saying that we want to review this within a specified timeline, bearing in mind that in other markets these things have been banned because of the harmful effects that they have on consumers. If we don't have timelines, and this is open-ended, this review can take 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Or is there any part that says review is equals to maximum 5?
From the recommendations from the Parliamentary Committee report, they were given 90 days to report back. But as you correctly say, time is of essence, and the speed at which they are going to effect this, if it's not time-bound, then it can take forever. So, and this is why I said our wish is that they speed up the process to have these products out of the market.
I want to bring in Njoki. Njoki, though, is the project lead of Farm Kenya. It's a Standard Group initiative as well, the Farm Kenya TV. Njoki, good morning. She joins us on the phone. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Now, Njoki, we're talking about how we can mainstream organic agriculture and promoting ecological organic agriculture and mainstreaming it into our agricultural system. I think from just that question by CT, it's talking about government and policy and saying this is how much effort we need to put into it. And then there are organizations such as the COAN and Standard Group and the others who are doing their bits on the ground. But from where you stand, Njoki, what role should the government play in mainstreaming this into our agriculture systems?
Okay, thank you so much for that, Eric. For me, uniquely positioned in the private sector and media for agriculture, the government actually has a lot to cover to ensure that we adopt ecological organic agriculture. If I may digress a bit, because it's been stated that agriculture has the greatest potential to helping the world actually achieve the around 5 or 6 sustainable development goals. That is around zero hunger, no poverty, good health and well-being, life on land, climate action, life in water or underwater. And it's through ecological organic agriculture that we can be able to actualize all these sustainable development goals. So for me, the government actually should go beyond policy making and looking into how they can encourage our population to adapt agriculture to actually being the active campaigner or active player in ensuring that everyone actually looks into organic agriculture as an alternative way of practicing agriculture. Why do I say that the government needs to champion for this? Because through organic agriculture, we are able to ensure that our country is food secure and that we have stable agricultural ecosystems that are producing safe food for our population. And then this actually translates into how our people work, because once you eat safe food, then you have lesser diseases, lesser issues, and then a healthier population is actually a population that is able to sustain the economy of our country.
Right.
So for me, yes,
So
the government should go beyond policy making to actually championing for this.
Right. So going beyond policy making, in my opinion, also then means that there must be an appetite on the part of government to actually have this as an initiative for the country. So beyond saying what the policy must say, then I see it beyond that as almost something that must take up a major part of the thinking. Because you can say it can be in policy, but then it must go then to the point of implementation, and you must have an appetite for that. Are we seeing that there's an appetite on the part of government to actually include this in the ways of practice? And even as you think about, as you answer that, we're looking at the practitioners of agriculture as the farmers in this country. Is there an appetite also on their behalf, on their part, to go into this full throttle?
Okay. So I would say the government is actually taking strides towards ensuring that organic agriculture is part of our agricultural practices as a country. Like what my colleague said, that is Vistas, we have CALRO, which is the parastatal that is mandated to practice agricultural research and extension, participating in organic agriculture. We have Egerton University itself, again, another government institution, which is championing for organic agriculture in the country. So I'd say, yes, they are taking steps, but we need to go on a larger scale and see not just these two organizations, and see more of government institutions, ministries, and the likes taking on organic agriculture. Then on to your second part of the question, do we see farmers being attracted by organic agriculture? Yes. I think we had, I can't remember exactly who said that, but someone alluded to that organic agriculture could be expensive. The reason as to why we thought that is because when you go to the supermarket and you compare produce that has been grown through the conventional way and you compare organic produce, it usually turns out that the organic produce normally fetches a higher premium than the conventional way. So I would say yes, because organic produce gives farmers a better return. So farmers actually are interested in understanding how can they practice and access this organic market. Then the other part of this formula would be consumers themselves. Are we as a Kenyan population asking for safe organic food when we go to procure or when you go to buy the produce that we consume in our kitchens? So this is a call to each and every person, whether you're practicing agriculture or not, because definitely 3 times a day we are going to consume food. So you should be looking out for produce from this kind of agriculture.
Eustace, I want to come to you. You told us in 2011, African Union heads of state and government sat and they decided, yes, we are going to go into supporting organic agriculture in the continent. Now, since then, coming to the part of the government of Kenya, what has the government of Kenya done to support this conversation? For example, is there a budgetary allocation that goes straight and says, this is for promoting organic agriculture? And such are the programs.
Thank you for the question. The structure of the initiative is that it's housed at the African Union Commission. At regional blocks, there are regional committees. And at national level, there are national platforms. So in Kenya, we have a Kenya National Ecological Organic Agriculture Platform, which is chaired by the Ministry of Agriculture. And the Ministry of Agriculture has also set up an interministerial committee to develop the Ecological Organic Agriculture Strategy. So in terms of support, we have seen that the ministry is very supportive. To the extent of giving budgetary allocations, this has not happened because the idea ideally is that there should be a policy or a strategy that will guide the budgetary allocations. So far, this has not happened. However, there are some county governments, for example, the Kiambu County, who have gone an extra mile to develop an organic agriculture policy. Counties like Murang'a, who are subsidizing organic inputs. So both at national and county government level, we have seen lots of progress. And it's our wish that in the few coming years, we're going to have budgetary allocations so that we champion these noble cause.
What has been the impact of those two initiatives by those two county governments you mentioned, Kiambu and Murang'a, to support organic? What do you see?
Like in Murang'a, there's a lot of business for organic farmers, especially on avocados. And the county government is subsidizing the organic farmers who are doing that, who are practicing. And the levels of adoption also have increased. We are seeing more and more farmers getting into it. You see, if the government says something or leads in something, then it's about to be followed rather than organizations like us, pushing it. Yeah.
Okay, and coming from from then the consumption side of things, so we're looking at communities as a whole, individuals, families, etc., etc. Are we seeing that there's again more appetite on this side for organic farming, because then it directly involves or affects your health at the end of the day, and then contributions toward food safety and security? How do I know? I mean, like you said, somebody can call something organic, it is not. How are we sure what you're buying and what you're ingesting? And what are some things that you can actually look out for?
Yeah, to answer the first question is that we have seen an increase in people demanding for organic products. And this is a result of, health has become an issue and people are suffering different various conditions. And they want, and again, even if you're not suffering, everybody wants to live a healthy life. People are conscious about their health, and therefore we have seen an increase in the number of consumers who are demanding for organic products. Now, how do you differentiate an organic tomato at the supermarket? One is that there's a process called organic certification. And organic certification is a process certification. That means it's not the tomato that will be subjected to the lab, but it's the process of growing that tomato that will be certified. From the time you plant, how you manage your pests and diseases, by the time you process, by the time it gets to the shelf. And in East Africa, we have the East Africa Product Organic Standards, which are the custodianship of Kenya Bureau of Standards, which after following those standards, you're allowed to use the Kilimo Hai mark. It's a small mark called Kilimo Hai, which is placed on the products, the certified organic products. So, of course, because we do not have a legislation that says you cannot use the word organic, then you find everybody is labeling their products as organic.
Yes.
Yeah. So until we have the government commitment, we have a legislation put in place like there are any other places in the world where you cannot just put the word organic on your product. It has to follow the standard. Then we cannot, it's up to that point where we we can guarantee.
You can only go that far. I like the fact that there has been a development of a standard, and the standard is even recognized and placed under Kenya Bureau of Standards. There's also the new development as well on food safety, and there's a new standard that's been developed on safe food, which also is a process standard as well. However, now that's why I'm just getting. We have so many standards coming in. As a consumer, I'm going into the market. I'm looking for Kilimo High. If I want to look for, organically produced, and then there's the other food safety in terms of growing and handling. At some point, don't you think there'll be a confusion? Because if there's a separate standard on this is safe food, but it has been produced using some unsafe products, for example, like the synthetic pesticides, but it still has received a safety standard and a badge on the market, and yours does not have all those, but it has also Kilimo High badge. It's confusing to me as a consumer. Which one do I trust? Which one do I know is actually better?
The food safety standard you are referring to is the one. The idea behind it is that when you are exporting, producers are required to follow good agricultural practices. And good agricultural practices do not necessarily restrict use of some chemicals. They only provide for some post-harvest intervals. So the food safety standard that is being championed by KEFIS and also KEBS is that as much as we are so much concerned about the exports, let's also be concerned about
local
consumers. So it's up to the point of handling and ensuring that there's limited use of these pesticides. But for organic, it's explicit. Is that there are certain products that you're not allowed to use. So you are sure that there will be no residues. Whereas in the other one, there could be residues, but at least you have some assurance that they have gotten some minimum levels. So it's like a minimum bar and a top
and
bar.
a higher bar. Joki, back to you. In terms of promoting this in the market, because Eustace was telling us their organization is also very much involved in the market development, but in terms of promoting this to the market, to the consumer, so that then consumers can start creating that demand for organic, what are you doing at Farm Kenya?
Okay, thank you for that. So at Farm Kenya, our main duty in the consortium is to ensure that we communicate to both the farmers and the consumers. So part of our activities is organizing this kind of conversations like the one that we are having today to ensure that our listeners are, one, educated on what organic agriculture is, and two, they are aware that they actually have choices whenever they go out there to buy produce for their home consumption. And number three, also educate the different decision makers in the agricultural sector on what needs to be done in the country to ensure that we mainstream organic agriculture. For example, there could be someone listening to this conversation today, and they are the ones who are actually required to draft these kind of policies and also lobby and push for them in government spaces. So these are the kind of initiatives Farm Kenya has undertaken to ensure that people are aware about ecological organic agriculture. Apart from this kind of conversations, we also do one-on-one kind of events where we set up, could be breakfast discussions with different policy makers, decision makers, and influencers in the sector. It could be farmer field days where we talk to farmers and educate them about ecological organic agriculture. And all these are compounded, or rather, they are complemented by the different media platforms that Farm Kenya runs under Standard Media Group.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for joining us as well this morning. Joki is a project lead at Farm Kenya. And Eustace Kerie, he is the CEO of the Kenya Organic Agriculture Network, KOAN. Thank you for having us, and in fact, for joining us. And in fact, we'd like to invite you again soon so we can continue this conversation.
Thank you.
Many people would like to know more about organic farming, about organic produce. And we want to thank our audience on KTN Home who've been with us since the top of the hour. Wherever you are locked in KTN Home, these conversations happen every weekday morning, 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. We'll be here in the next hour. Wherever you're tuned in, you can now switch over to SpiceFM, Nairobi 94.4, Mombasa it's 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0, Nakuru, Eldoret 96.7, 90.9 in Nyeri, Malindi is 97.7. When you also live stream the show all across the globe, SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. For example, we are in South Africa. Sholo Meto is watching us there. And somebody else is watching us from Solwezi. Where is Solwezi? That's in Zimbabwe. Is that the flag of Zimbabwe or is that the flag of Mozambique?
It looks like the flag of Mozambique, actually.
Mozambique. Dorcas Mutale Chanda. A very good morning to you. 5 minutes to 9. Kenya's biggest conversation continues.
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
Ceci, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, saying, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Has you ever that kind of... Has anybody been
I will not listen.
bit of advice? Because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. SpiceFM, Nyeri. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
All right, it's 3 minutes.
94.4 Spice FM
continues. Ndu, have you gone to the market and bought and specifically looked for organic produce?
I have actually specifically looked for. And yes, and that's the thing that I was actually thinking about as Njoki was talking earlier about, you know, that you might find it on the shelves as something more expensive. And so, yes, you actually do find it as more expensive on the shelves.
I also actually know somebody who is in organic farming, and she's even opened up a shop, right? So her produce, and then she aggregates other organic farmers' produce. There's a shop, there are markets that are also coming up for organic produce. So it's developing as something. However, you know, my fear is when such things develop, there's a certain slant that they take. You know, it's a lifestyle kind of thing. It's
bougie.
Niche. It's very bougie. And yet, it is actually just the fun. It should be just the basic.
It should be what you should be doing. It should be your public school.
Do you know what I find strange? Yeah. And this now again here is an advantage that chronology gives me. This thing that we are fighting for is what we had.
Yes. Your backyard garden, little farm that you had there, that you pick and cook in the evening, was kept alive with the manure from your poultry or the cows that you had just around. No synthetic anything.
No.
And now with the development in science, where you can even look at how best to get your minerals out of composting.
Yes.
How to make sure that you're growing earthworms and then you can use them in your farm. How you can even develop those pests that are the beneficial pests to deal with the harmful pests. With all these things, it is questionable how that's not what we promote.
It's you see, the big farmer, big agri-farmer is big.
And deep-pocketed.
Deep-pocketed, and they fight viciously.
Very influential. Very, very influential. Like that move by the PCPB to say, yeah, we are going to review, we have a committee. But you have not said how soon you will get your report.
Get this done.
I looked at that and I'm like, okay, it's okay. You tell us your stories. Sometimes, by the way, dealing with this, being in this industry where you're just constantly looking and reviewing information, you develop some very low tolerance to BS.
Yeah, true.
You're like,
I can't.
But you know it for what it is.
yeah, just okay, just moving on. Don't lie to me, my friend.
It's not there.
If it's not there, if it's not coming, it's not coming. Okay? A very good morning to you. It's now 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. All Kenyans who plan to run for elective positions in next year's general elections will now be required to obtain a special certificate proving that their educational credentials are valid. Director of the Kenya National Qualifications Authority, Dr. Juma Muthui, says there'll be a special accreditation website where those who aim to get the special certificate will register their education certificates. The activity will involve contacting educational institutions around the world to ensure that the documents submitted are accurate before the digital receipt is issued to those who meet the requirements. The receipt will thereafter be used by IBC to approve the candidates. You're being warned against giving police officers a bribe and instead being urged to follow the law. Commissioner of Police Dominic Kisavi says you should also report rogue officers who constantly parade on our roads to take bribes. He, however, says as police, they don't entertain bribes, as officers found in such cases are either sacked, disciplined and transferred from traffic to other departments. Kisavi also says EACC are carrying out a random search along roads to arrest and charge officers caught receiving bribes.
It takes two to tango. There is a willing giver and there is a willing receiver. But I wish that person could also have gone ahead and given us the identity of the officers who are receiving the bribes. Actually, as a service, we have been fighting this fight. As I told you before, that the law does not give us a mandate to arrest and charge these people in court. But then internally, we have the National Police Service Act regulations, which also outlaws bribes, corruption. And we deal with these officers internally.
Fear has gripped residents of Denyenye and Ngombeni areas in Kwale County following the series of attacks from criminal gangs in the Likoni area of Mombasa County. These areas are located on the border of the two counties. Residents in the area are now urging the government to find alternative ways to deal with the gangs, as they feel that the main culprits are parents, considering that the members of the gang are young people.
Au wasiwasi wetu kama wakaji wa Denyenye. So tunaletwa balaa kutoka nje zikiingia hapa kwetu. Lakini utakuta kuna kundi ambalo latoka nje lafanya mzozo huko likiingia hapa ndani. Alafu linatafuta njia za kwenda.
Lakini visa kama hivi vinavyotokea vya watoto ndio vinatusikitisha, na la kulaumu zaidi ni wazazi wenye watoto hao.
This comes as 6 suspects were arrested earlier this week for attacking people in Mombasa area. And finally, relations between Kenya and Somalia are expected to improve following a meeting between President Uhuru Kenyatta and neighboring Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein. The two met yesterday at State House in Mombasa and discussed in detail how the two countries could cooperate in trade as well as strengthen security at their borders, including counter-terrorism. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, still some traffic on Langata Road today, also headed from Gong Road into the city. We're also looking at traffic on Jogo Road headed into the city, as well as industrial area Lunga, then joining with Enterprise from the front, and as well joining with Mombasa Road on the other side of things. Langata Road, like we said, still there. And Thika Road also, getting to the CBD. Those are some of the issues that we're seeing this morning. Still hot and heavy, especially between Survey and the Muthui Square. It continues. So let's keep looking at things as they go along. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127. Are you stuck? Let us know. You find a good route, let us know that as well. And we'll share.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It's 5
The
minutes
only way
after
to
9.
start
Kenya's
your day.
biggest conversation continues. So, CT wants to acknowledge God for creating the leopard.
You must. It's important.
Yeah.
Do not blame God for creating the leopard. Just thank Him for not giving it wings.
Do not blame God for creating the leopard. Just thank Him for not giving it wings. Because why? And it ends there.
And if you are still curious, then the response is best placed in the Kiswahili language. Jaza sentensi.
Yes. So, want to open up the phone lines now and have this conversation with you. You know, we are heading towards next year's general election, and the political silly season has begun, and there's a lot of conversations that are going to be taking place. Let's see how we can chambua these stories. So 0719-012-600 on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday at State House Mombasa hosted opposition leaders from Wiper, Ford Kenya, ANC, ODM, KANU. And they had some lengthy conversation. The headlines in the papers today. The Standard says, inside Uhuru's bid to unite Raila and OKA, the One Kenya Alliance. My mind goes to OKA. One Kenya Alliance. Though State House statement was short on details of Uhuru's talks with Raila and One Kenya Alliance leaders, we learned that they discussed the need for unity of purpose, but they were non-committal on a single flag bearer, and that is given page 6 of the story. Open page 6. Ndu, you shall give us a...
Page 6.
Yes, on that. The Nation headline, Ruto allies face axe in cabinet changes. In a meeting with party leaders Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, and Gideon Moi of KANU, President Uhuru Kenyatta is reported to have discussed a looming reshuffle in his cabinet, offering to include nominees from the opposition in his administration. Mr. C.T. Muga, what is the headline in the Star?
The headline on the Star is 2022 is yours to lose, Uhuru tells opposition chiefs.
Yeah.
Yes, strategy. Kenyatta urges rivals to join hands against his deputy.
Details was scanty. Only a few people attended, but everybody seems to know what was being discussed. One says that it was about a cabinet reshuffle. Another one says it was, this thing, by the way, it's for you guys. It's unite, you win it. It's for you to lose. And then the other one says it was about identification of a candidate. And they emerged there without having made any progress because they did not identify a candidate. The Nation, key opposition politicians could join President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration in an imminent cabinet reshuffle intended to push out Deputy President William Ruto's loyalists. The president yesterday met the four main opposition leaders for talks over plans to appoint new cabinet secretaries and agree on a 2022 presidential flag bearer, according to multiple sources familiar with the discussions. First two paragraphs of the Nation. What are the first two paragraphs in the Standard?
President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday took to the quest to reunite former National Super Alliance NASA principals a notch higher, hosting a luncheon at State House in Mombasa. The talks with ODM leader Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper, Musalia Mudavadi of ANC, Gideon Moi of KANU, and Moses Wetangula of Ford Kenya lasted for hours, with parties digging in on calls for unity. Also present in the meeting, convened to have the opposition politicians forge a united front was Kakamega Governor and ODM Deputy Party Leader Wycliffe Oparanya.
First two paragraphs in the Star.
Right. First two paragraphs in the Star. President Uhuru Kenyatta has escalated his plans to reunite the NASA principles as he crafts a broad-based political machine to face Deputy President William Ruto next year.
That is one paragraph.
Paragraph 2.
Right.
This was a dramatic pause, Chief.
Hey.
Surely. Uhuru, who has bitterly fallen out with Ruto, has gone flat out to compel the opposition into an alliance, bringing on board ODM boss Raila Odinga, NASA, Oka, and others.
Okay. So basically, all these stories seem to agree on one thing, that it's a bid to unite Raila, Musalia, Kalonzo, Wetangula, and now Gideon into one, right?
That's the story.
That is what those three stories seem to be having in common. Now, whether we are dangling the carrot of cabinet reshuffle and getting your people into cabinet, or whether we are saying, okay, you guys, this is for you. Clearly, you can beat my deputy in the next year. You opposition can beat my deputy in next year's election. It's all about the president seeming to lean towards the opposition as his preferred successor and not his deputy as his preferred successor.
Yes. I think that ship long sailed. That he's not looking towards his deputy as the one who will take over the reins of power, and that let's go somewhere else to be able to do. For whatever reasons, again, we are not privy to as the reasons. They say, okay, the reason why you're not going in this direction, we do not know. Do you have between yourselves, whatever happened, we still, truth be told, we do not know. It has never come out. But it is clear that in terms of looking towards succession politics, it is not going in the direction of his deputy from the president, right? From the pool of what is available, it's like, you know what, let's revive what was there previously. And the optics of all of this would be that from this picking or from these individuals is who the flag bearer will be selected to be. Nobody else. Have we seen that he has had a connection with anybody else? Previous alliances?
Yeah.
If anything, it's bringing everybody who formed an alliance in different sectors, bringing all of them together and let's have a united front. Many could argue that it's the first of its kind in a long time.
No, it is
of this kind, where all of these
of
all of these individuals who were in previous different alliances, KANU, ANC, Ford, KANU, for example, was not in NASA before. So now you're bringing in a different entrant and saying, okay, we seem to be on different sides. Now, rather than split and say this person wants to be, how about we all come together and have unity of purpose and select one person who will speak for all of us at the same time? Coming from the president to make that.
What makes you say it's not the first time?
I think it is.
Because it isn't the first time any such thing has happened. You see, it's like saying you have a genre of music or a dance style, okay? Other people subscribe to it. There's something called bongo, okay? There's something called rumba, something called waltz. Now, the musicians who actually subscribe to it may differ, but we're talking of the same thing. When it comes to what we are now seeing, this seems to be a Kenyan tradition.
Where we have the president calling people and saying, you guys, in terms of succession, everybody who's been forming these blocks before, now I, as the one who is going out, I'm calling you all and saying, let's come together. I don't think we've had a president
But the
do that
fundamental
before.
difference is that this is in the public domain for everybody to see and to participate in the drama. But if you're talking about those in leadership sitting down, talking, agreeing, coming to an understanding with even those who are in the opposition, in this country, it happens all the time. All the time. All the time.
There's always that conversation that's taking place.
It always
behind closed doors.
It always takes place.
Away
Always.
from the public glare.
Yes. This now is drama in the public domain. And I want to ask myself the question, why is this being taken to the public domain? Because you see, what they're resurrecting is something that I'd hoped we had moved from. The 40 against 1, the 42 against 1, 40 against 2. It's been resurrected in this new form again. So that it's everybody now against the deputy president. And the narrative, if you read everything about these stories, it's again the word conjecture. Somebody saying, I think this is the president's strategy. I think this is what the president is actually... People go as far as the president is thinking.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, you would hope he were.
No, I can read it for you. It's been written. The president is thinking that if he does this, then this will happen. Now, and I'm saying that there's a commonality of purpose that it may appear that the deputy president is excluded. He is not. He is not. Anyone who wants to be the president of this country will have a certain commonality of purpose. It's a question of who begins the dance earlier than the other. See, the deputy president has wisely chosen his dance partner to be the general public. And why do I say he's wise? He's wise because constitutionally, he's actually partnering with the person who actually owns and determines...
Who matters.
Yes. I'm calling it his wisdom because the discussions I'm reading here, it's like these people are predetermining for us what exactly is going to happen. Saying, should the president meet so and so and decide that this is what's going to happen? I'm thinking, the issue of the voter and the vote is not in that discussion at all.
Now, that's very interesting that you say that, CT, because also on the other side of the divide is that people see this as just that it has been predetermined, and then you have a lot of people then who will not participate in this process because they feel, okay, well, you know what? It's already been predetermined. It has already been decided. Whatever you do, that these fellows who believe that the power still rests in their hands are going ahead and making decisions. And so the optics show you, again, remember that all of this is about perception. Even the politics that we talk about, it's about perception. How do you see it? There are folks who look at this picture alone and look at and hear the musings that took place in Mombasa yesterday. And what do they say? The one who is in power today has already
picked his successor,
and they formed a group, the Big Boys Club, and they've already decided what will be tomorrow. So whether you vote, whether you shout about it from here until next year, whatever you do, whatever you don't do, the outcome has already been predetermined. And we cannot ignore a large number of the population who feel that okay, let me go ahead and vote, but this thing has already been decided. The president today with the power has met these folks.
But if we look at other societies around us that actually, have had elections recently and where the president appears to have picked his successor and even chosen how to go. What was the case of the DRC with Joseph Kabila? The president had what appeared to be his preferred successor. Did that successor rise to office?
It did not succeed.
How did that one go?
It did not succeed.
In other parts of Africa as well, where the incumbent appears to have... a preferred successor.
But there's a pushback.
And there's pushback, and then even people go to the election and that successor does not win, and they have to have a conversation to accommodate one another because clearly, mumeniweza, sasa tufanyeje. This is the third time in this country where we are seeing a president heading into an election and preparing to hand over power, right? Moi he come out openly and said, this is my preferred successor.
How did that work out?
Uhuru Kenyatta. Mwai Kibaki did not come out openly with a preferred successor. There's all this conversation about whether he had a preferred successor or not, but never really came out openly.
Mwai Kibaki didn't go around announcing very many things.
Preferred successor,
No, he didn't.
But now here we are with Uhuru Kenyatta, and what the game is being played here is as if Uhuru Kenyatta is basically starting to show the public, my preferred direction would be anybody but. And now for that anybody, let's now bring in the other somebodies and so you see who could emerge as the anybody, but not the other person. I have some conspiratorial mind.
Please, here we go. Please.
And on this one, I look at it and I say, Uhuru's preferred successor is William Ruto.
Please tell us why you think so.
Conspiracy.
Please, conspiracy.
Mukona time.
Conspirate ahead. Away.
Conspirate. Wow.
Here is what that cabone in my mind is telling me. Look, so 2017 election happens, all right? It's clearly very polarized. It's clearly showing that the public has issues with the incumbent. Okay? You have 5 years, you're going into the next election. In the next election is going to be a succession and transition election. Will the people be ready and willing to continue with the status quo, or will people want change? Globally, in such situations, people usually go for change. So how do you create that change? You create the change by making the incumbent the opposition. So the narrative out here today is that William Ruto is the opposition leader. Despite being the deputy president in the current government, in the current administration, all the conversations is opposition leader William Ruto, who's in government, is the one who is going to be fighting with those that are coming as the incumbent in the next election. People will go for change. Swish. You vote in the opposition, you're actually voting in for change, but you have picked the same incumbent. There are those who will say, you're giving them too much credit. Yeah.
Actually, no, you're not.
It's come a political genius here by these two gentlemen.
You're actually speaking.
Let's create a narrative where we actually show that everything that's happening and that's going wrong in government, we even create those wrongs where we deport somebody, create those wrongs.
To make it seem as though they were friction.
You're a victim, you are the opposition, you have been sidelined, you're out there, things that are going wrong in this government, you have nothing to do with them, things that are going right, you can even, piggyback and say, in the first time, things that were going right, this is what we did, but the things have gone wrong, we are not part of it. You cannot blame anything that's going wrong today on William Ruto. Politically, that's a messaging.
You know what Eric is saying? If you just pause for a while and give it thought, it has a lot of merit. Raila Odinga was a champion of this hustler narrative before it got this baptism for the longest time. Now, you can't recreate the processes he went through in championing this. You can't be detained, you can't go to jail, you can't suffer the way he suffered in this day.
You don't have the benefit of 8 years.
No, you don't have that benefit. Yes, and you also don't have the benefit of that narrative. You don't. But the popularity was, he seemed to be the person who embodied the championing of the voiceless, spoke for the disadvantaged. Now, who is right now championing that very same message and giving it a new name, a new push? The deputy president.
Yep.
Same narrative, same championing. And he has taken it to a different level where he's saying, let us look at this population of the youth who represent everything that the downtrodden and disadvantaged have. This group. And is focusing on it. So when Eric talks about the person being in the opposition, you see, again, it works if you are in the opposition.
Yep.
So if the narrative is that this man who is championing our cause and who is in the opposition is being picked on, what happens is that the person gains in sympathy votes. And in addition to the traction that this hustle narrative has already gained, yes, it is a huge possibility. However, there is something about our elections that is not spoken about loudly, but if I may be allowed to be conspiratorial like you.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yes. It's the moment for it, isn't it?
Why not? You might as well.
Is that the direction and the end of our elections are not always determined by us. Not really. There are people who have an interest in who becomes the president of this country, and those people are not necessarily the voter.
Yep.
And those people are not necessarily also those who seem to be dividing the spoils and deciding who should do what, when, and how.
Who are those people? Are they the deep state?
It's a cabal.
The system.
Of a few distinguished gentlemen and ladies who make a decision about what happens in this country.
These are the group of people whom we refer to as foreign powers. You've heard that phrase? Foreign powers? Powerful foreign powers? Because if you look at this group of people, I'm looking at this picture, okay? And I am looking at the definition of dynasty personified perfectly. If somebody wanted to fault that argument, look at this picture and say, see? See? It's happening before our very eyes. So, all I'm saying is that when it comes to a presidential election, the issues that are at play are usually a lot more than just someone having a narrative, someone forming his own little circle of people whom he think they should play ball with, and the discussions about deep state as to who should rig more than the other. They are discussions that sometimes go beyond those things. Because at the end of the day, if you ask me, of course nobody's going to ask me, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Let me ask you.
And I'll pretend.
What happens
at the end of the day?
Oh, thank you so much. Now that you've asked that all-important question, let me tell you what I think about it. My thoughts are this. The Mwananchi is always underestimated, and yet anyone who has formed a formidable opposition in this country has been because the Mwananchi has spoken. The Mwananchi has spoken through his powers given to him by the Constitution in the voting process. And the Mwananchi has been able to say, whatever you say, we support this person. And that is what has made the opposition position in this country as potent as it is. So in underestimating the Mwananchi, and in deciding for the Mwananchi, because this is what it seems like, those in power may be making a mistake in underestimating the Mwananchi.
Me, I'm telling you, they are not. They are not underestimating the Mwananchi. They understand the Mwananchi's strengths and the Mwananchi's weaknesses fully well. Weakness is perception. You seem to think that, you want a champion of the people. That champion is not the one who is currently in office. So I'm going to give you a champion who is not.
And who is championing your supposed needs and wants and issues.
Yes.
Or what you would think they were.
Yes. And then the strength is because of polarization, you are going to want to stake a claim in this election. So you will come out. All right? Because you feel that this opposition leader is being pushed and pushed and pushed.
He's being victimized.
And already deep state and system is working against them. You will come out to show that system and deep state that I am here, I am the one who's important.
Okay, so if
and on the other side, because you're feeling that this person does not deserve. In fact, all of us have agreed that this person does not deserve is anybody but. I will also come out and show you, I will vote for anybody but you. So come out. So you have helped on both strength and weakness. The voter will come out.
Eric,
voter turnout next year.
Eric,
high.
You've done an excellent job of actually analyzing it. I mean, it's insightful. There's one, why I brought about the discussion on underestimating the voter is on one small point. In every situation we've had playing out that bears similarity to what we have now, we've never had anybody in the opposition also being in government at the same time. We've never had. So the discussion is good. But, right now, it's done.
Actually, we did, CT. In 2013, despite being the second the co-president, Prime Minister Raila Odinga, was the opposition candidate in the 2013 election. Despite the fact that constitutionally he shared power with the outgoing president. He was an incumbent.
Yes.
But in that election, Raila was the opposition candidate. Uhuru and Ruto were the incumbent. Despite the fact that Uhuru and Ruto were not ministers.
Yes. There is similarity in what you say, but the vying for the presidency was not in opposition to the president, because this presidency was coming to an end, just like this one is coming to an end. All right? But when you say he was in government, you see, we have a situation where you have a deputy president who appears to be presenting himself to be anti the very government and anti the very policies. Every issue that the Mwananchi has leveled against this particular presidency, he has now sided with. And in so doing, presenting himself as though he was never really party to this process.
Yes.
No. And now he's speaking out. and for these very people and against this very government where he is the deputy and yet he is still in the opposition.
But see, that's what Raila did in 2013.
Did he speak against the government?
Yes.
What did he say?
He was the opposition.
No, he
we
was.
are crossing over to Canaan. From where? You have been the leader, you have been the Moses leading, and then you're saying, I am the one who is going to come as Joshua and take you to Canaan.
If I may point,
how do you transition from Moses to Joshua? Let's just hear Peter and then you come in. Then you show us the difference.
Carry on.
Peter in Gara, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And the whole of the situation, I like the way all of you are so confused who is in the government and who is in the opposition.
I don't think even those who are in the government and opposition are aware.
No one seems to know.
Nobody knows.
Even the president himself. Did I know whether he's in government? But now, I'm looking at this photo of those guys who are in Mombasa yesterday.
Yes.
And I'm bringing in three things, and I don't know whether it's a question or just a comment. One, Mount Kenya is not represented other than by Uhuru Kenyatta.
Uh-huh.
If this is the future that Uhuru Kenyatta is bringing as the leaders of Kenya, does that imply somehow that he wants to hold them as the representative of Mount Kenya? Because I would have expected maybe Justin Muthui, the speaker, to be there, or Peter Kenneth or someone, as we've seen before. The other issue is the presence of three members of the former Western province, clearly showing that President Kenyatta trying to show them that, you're not united. Here there is Ford Kenya, there is ANC, and certainly there is ODM in the presence of Oparanya.
Yep.
And also Oparanya there now with Saida. I think what President Kenyatta is telling all the other OCA members is that my preferred candidate is Raila Odinga, and probably supported by Kalonzo. That's the team I want to move on, because you, Western Province, you're not united. But also that he does not want to leave power come 2022. He still wants to have a place to play as maybe a representative of Mount Kenya. That is my interpretation of it. I may be wrong.
So you think he, by not having anybody else from Mount Kenya, it means Mount Kenya, Mimi, Western, wewe, Musalia, wewe Tangula, wewe Oparanya, Eastern, wewe Kalonzo, Rift, wewe Gideon, Nyanza, wewe Raila. So he's basically putting himself in that
power block.
Pia Mimi.
Pia Mimi Niko.
It's an interesting reading. Thank you very much, Peter.
It's a lively interpretation.
Asante sana.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Karanja in Naivasha, good morning.
Good morning, Yannick. How are you?
Salama kabisa.
You are back.
From where?
There was a time you are not there, 2 days or 3 days.
Oh, last week on Friday. Yes.
Yes, last week on Friday.
Yes.
Okay, welcome. Okay, City and you, how are you?
Very well.
Very well. We're well, thank you, Karanja.
Okay, thank you very much, City. Now, let's have a history. History repeats itself.
Yes.
In 2002, we had Kibaki who was contesting with the NAC as a presidential candidate, isn't it? But the political parameters changed, given the fact that the president, who is now the president of Kenya, ran in the Gatodo South in a ticket of Kanu.
Yep.
Kapogo ran in a ticket of Kanu in Juja for Sisi kwa Sisi.
Uh-huh.
There was a guy called who ran with Safina. Paul Moite was a Kikuyu MP. By then, who ran with Safina? We had Jeroge Faja, who ran with Safinas.
Uh-huh.
Now, I think Kenyans have now changed. The thing is, what you call it Uda, call it Oka, the Oka. Now, it is a narrative that these people, they are buying the Kikuyu narrative. Oka. Now they are told you, okay, that's why they were in Mombasa. Okay.
Which means come here.
That is, yes, come here. It is a narrative with the Kikuyu Kaha. And now we had another narrative that is saying now the people with the ANC, they are the one Gideon Moi, Wetangura, Karozo Musyoka, they are in Yoka, isn't it? Now look this scenario. The thing that we are now looking is that Kibaki did a very good thing, but by silencing. In fact, Kibaki is a president who did not say, I will support this and that. Now, look what is happening with UDA and the PEP and the TSP. Now, if you want to know who is Kikuyu, now look what will happen with UDA. The guy who is running.
What do you think will happen in UDA with UDA?
Now, I know the TSC party chairman and the PEP chairman, they will not agree to dissolve their parties as they join the UDA.
Yeah.
And that will happen. Even JB, the current speaker in the National Assembly, that's why he is so silent. But he will run in a second as a deputy president in another, maybe from what the president is doing. Now,
so he'll be the.
I think that.
So you're saying,
yes?
Karanja, you were saying earlier that Kenyans have changed. I still haven't heard or seen how Kenyans have changed from your explanation.
Oh, from my explanation. The reason why I was giving you that there are people in 2002 the political parameters changed. In 2007 the political parameters changed. Look how the Kikuyu voted. Voted the MPs and voted the MPs then.
Okay.
Another thing.
There's some noise has come on your line. Thank you, Karanja. Well, let's take a break at 24 minutes to 10. So 0719-012-600. What do you think is President Uhuru Kenyatta's plan as we head towards next year's general election? So he's been holding these meetings with his opposition political leaders. In particular, yesterday he hosted them at State House Mombasa. He hosted Raila Odinga, Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, Gideon Moi, and ODM Deputy Party Leader Wycliffe Oparanya. And, it's all coming out. It's saying plans and preparations for next year's general election. What do you think is the plan? We have come up with our own conspiracies, CT and I. And we want to hear yours as well, because we don't know what Uhuru is thinking. He hasn't told us. Let's take this break, take a look at traffic. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
They are stealing every opportunity that you should have. They are stealing your health facilities. They are stealing all the progress that you planned for your child. They are stealing all the benefits that university students should have. Your livelihood is slowly being taken away from you, which means your life is also being slowly taken away from you as you watch.
Cut through the noise and stay in the know by texting the word TSR to 22840 to receive these and more highlights and insights from the Situation Room directly to your mobile phone. Don't miss out on the latest from Kenya's biggest conversation. SMS TSR to 22840.
At NCBA, we know it's more than a business loan. It's the flexibility and time you get to spend with loved ones. Call 0711-056-444 or visit ncbagroup.com for more information on business banking. At NCBA Bank, the numbers that matter to you matter to us.
He's full of character, wit, and sense of humor is sure to make you not get enough.
Ati ukienda mahali unapelekwa out sijui na kulanga lasagna na ujui kuisoma. Imeandikwa kwa menu, nipatie lasagna.
Join MC Jesse as he sits down with his guests for a thrilling,
It's 15 degrees in
memorable-
Nairobi. Continues to rain. Highs of 22 and lows of 14. Light rain in Nyeri at 16 with highs of 20. 23 will be the high in Nakuru, where it's cloudy at 18. 22 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Eldoret at 17. We'll see highs of 26 in Kisumu. It's mostly cloudy at 22. Light rain continues in Kakamega at 22, going to highs of 26. 28 will be the high in Mombasa, where it's raining at 25. Mostly cloudy conditions at 26 in Malindi, highs of 28. It's sunny in Kampala now at 22, highs of 27. Cloudy conditions now that the fog has lifted in Dar es Salaam at 24 with highs of 29. Mostly cloudy in Johannesburg at 8. That'll be the low for today. Mostly sunny conditions at 25 in Lagos, highs of 29. And cloudy in Kinshasa at 23 with highs of 31. It's 30 degrees currently in Beijing. It'll come down to lows of 23. Mostly cloudy at 16 in Paris with highs of 28. 23 will be the high in a sunny London at 15. It's clear in New York at 24, going into a very warm Wednesday with highs of 33, back down to lows of 24.
Spice up your life.
All right, quite some traffic inbound to Mombasa Road from Enterprise Road. We're also looking at Jogo Road. Still some heavy traffic between Hamza and Makadara Station. We see Langata Road is also still packed, and then coming off of Thika Road into the city, a little bit has relaxed just a little bit, but looks like it continues in some parts for the day. Mombasa Road from the SGR outbound is still a headache, and it looks like it'll be that way for some parts of the morning, so let's watch out for that. Apart from that, dying down in the minutes of traffic hour, we'll keep an eye on things through the day. Help us out as well on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Uhuru's plan ahead of next year's general election, with all the meetings that he's holding with the opposition leaders. What is Ojaka saying?
Ojaka says if Uhuru is serious about ousting Ruto in 2022, he must be prepared to do what the Kibaki team did in 2007. I don't know how he'll pull that, though, unless the foreign powers back that plan. I wonder whether that was discussed in his UK trip. The conspiracy is running rife. You know what I think? You look at this conversation that has been taking place over the last many months about this whole hustler narrative and, giving power to the people economically is what is going to save the country. It's gained traction more than you would believe. And I see that those who, as we see that it has gained traction, we're not the only ones who have seen that. And those who are also in positions of influence have seen that as well and realize that if you don't counter this with something else that resonates just as much as it has with people in certain quarters, then you're going to have a bit of a problem. And I think that's why you see things like this. I think that's why you see these conversations of proposed unification. I think that's why you see that.
It's to counter.
Yeah, to build a narrative that will counter, to build a position that will counter this. Because it would be, if you ask me, politically myopic not to.
You have to react to something.
Somehow.
Now, that's the thing. And that's why I'm saying my conspiracy theory, Uhuru's preferred successor is Ruto. He's always ahead. These other guys are reacting to Uhuru's narrative. Anyway, let's go back to the phone line, 0719-012-600. John Jaroge in Mombasa. Good morning.
Good morning, Special.
How are you?
Good morning.
Eric?
Yes.
I agree with you.
You see?
You remember the time I called you and I made the mistake of telling you Ruto have done political science?
Yeah.
You remember I told you they are playing Raira? That's exactly what's going on. And your theory is just right because look at how the places where Raira has many votes have been splintered. You understand?
Like which ones?
Look at, like now, if you go to Mombasa, there's this move to try and find a party which will be for coast people only. initially those were riders.
Solid.
Like, that's where he used to get, yes. If you go to Western, Mudavadi have been told, this is your time. They have gone to Carlos and told him, this is your time. So try to bring these gentlemen together will be at all order. On the other side, if you look at Ruto and how he's doing his politics, he's being assisted by the state. And these people are geniuses because they knew people are fed up with the Kenyatta regime. And there was no way they're gonna give anybody related with Jubilee government. So they tried to come up with a thing of trying to pretend as if Ruto is not part and parcel of the Jubilee government. Because let me ask you this question. This guy is the second in command. Who in his right mind can stop him from going to Kampala? Who? This thing is well orchestrated, and the person behind it is a very smart person, and he's duping the masses. The person who is favorite to Uhuru is Ruto.
So we are being carried pumpkin.
Yes.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Lovely day. Teddy in Voi, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm so much in support of what you're saying. Because if you look at these all alliances, they're being all these alliances are being set up for the purposes of purpose. They want someone to clench power, and I think it's a high time that the president should actually just wash his hands from these the guys of Voka and the ODM, because at any given time will these people come together and form up a unity of purpose at this point. Because
but
everyone
Teddy, they've been
wants to
together
lead.
before, just until last week.
Exactly. They've been together, yes. But you see, it has come a point whereby everybody wants to lead. So I think it's a high time that the president should just leave it at that and concentrate on going home peacefully, and let Kenyans make the decisions, because at any given time we are the problem. We Kenyans as citizens, we are the problem, not even the leader. They come lie to us, we buy their ideas, we vote for them, they take us down the drain, and then everything goes back to normal.
So reset. Thank you, Teddy.
Yeah.
Good day. Lydia in Parklands. Hello.
Good morning, SpiceFM.
Good
City,
morning.
Du and Eric, thank you for your good work. Now I wanted to say that the politicians, when the Moi regime moved in, the 150 shillings that was paid as a trade license to commerce and industry, they moved it to City Council. City Council already had its system. The Moi regime said, no, pay license to City Council. From 150, it was increased to 6,000. 6,000 to 12,000. Then 20,000. Then, for me, I don't want the Moi regime politicians back.
And who are
came
those?
as post-election-
Who are the Moi
Moi
regime politicians?
They came as post-election violence government. They made President Kibaki said, don't pay 6 billion license for the Safaricom, Airtel. So many mobile companies collapsed and ran away. Don't pay 6 billion, pay 1 billion. This is what Kibaki did. Then he said the tax-free for computers, because he wants to introduce computers to schools. This is the work Kibaki kept on doing. Reduce. And then the post-election violence came, charged VAT on business rent. Businesses had to now immigrate to other areas for cheaper rent. Every time they make businesses to collapse, the Moi regime. And now those politicians, even Raila is part of the Moi regime. All of them. We need new groups.
We need to sweep this thing clean. Thank you very much, Lydia.
Thank you.
Good day. We had Anthony in Mombasa. I was just about to pick you and then you dropped. You can call back. Anthony in Mombasa. Siti, you were saying that you wanted to demonstrate to me how 2013 was different with an incumbent being the opposition.
Everything you say is actually true. The fundamental difference was this. The Kibaki Raila Odinga government was a negotiated marriage. It was the first time we saw someone in the opposition forming a government in this country with the president of the country. It was an understanding that was reached. So the fundamental difference is this government, the two went into an election as partners and have been partners throughout. Yes. There's nothing arranged. It's a duo, it's a team that has been there. That team was cobbled up so that we could have a semblance of stability and peace. Now,
so there were opposition in government. It's like SPLM and SPLM.
In a sense, yes, because if you look at even that government before things stabilized, and as they say, before Raila Odinga and President Kibaki sat down, the two of them, and had a chat, my goodness, the tiffs and the back and forth that one witnessed in those early days, man, it was something that would make a movie, should we say, look tame. This has happened, there's the other, it went on, it's like, but what it provided, which was actually in my mind a unique thing, was a check and balance. Each side was very quick to point out what the other side was doing. Yes, very, very quick. So in a sense, the opposition was within the government. This one, term one, swimming, everybody seems to be on the same page. Term two, everybody seems to be on the same page until March. That's why I'm saying there's that fundamental difference.
Yes. Amani, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. Good morning, Du. Good morning, CT.
Good morning, Amani.
Eric, I would agree with your conspiracy theory if ICC was still in place and if Ruto was still in the handshake. Then I would know for sure, as I thought at the time, that actually Raila is being played because it's convenient. They want to rule. They can't rule with this chaos in the country. However, when you look at it from now, what's happening, I can see, looking back into history, that since there was never any love lost between the two gentlemen, that the two protagonists, who have now become government opposition, that is Uhuru and Ruto, and whereas Raila has become opposition government and all the opposition leaders have become opposition government, it's not surprising at all, because there was never any love lost between the two. There was always that talk that Ruto was too big for his boots, had basically taken over government, was actually ruling, and what's his name? Uhuru was his right-hand man. So it's not the other way around. So it's not surprising that now, when Uhuru thought he could work with Raila more than he could work with Ruto, and Ruto understood the dynamics because they know liked him anyway, that really his time is up. And therefore,
so you
it's
think
not surprising.
Uhuru is intent on what? On Raila as his successor, or anybody but Ruto?
But Ruto.
Anybody but Ruto. He will work with Raila because Raila supposedly had the numbers. I'm not so sure he has them now. Yeah. So he's prepared to work with him, but not necessarily a definite. If he felt anybody else could do the job, he would go, he would promote them. Uhuru has got no particular leanings to any particular person because it's about his legacy. So he's going to do everything that's within his own interest. So Mudavadi would be the more appealing character for Kenyans. Believe me, he'd be supporting him 1,000% and be telling Raila, bye-bye.
Amani, can I ask you a question, please?
Yes.
You state very confidently that beyond looking at his own legacy, the president, according to you, may not really have any other interest or any other pursuit. Did I understand you to say that, or did I misunderstand you somewhere?
No, he has his interests. His interests are prime.
Yes. Now, what I'm saying is that anyone who is a politician, unfortunately, mixes his own interest and that of the people for this very simple reason, that even when you are a national leader, in the eyes of many people, you are first a leader of your community.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And much as you hear us naysaying politicians every other day, we know that by and large, politicians want to be seen in a good light by their people, despite everything else that they do. And part of the legacy that they would like to leave is to have done good by their people, to have done something that the people can say, this leader looked after our interest. I'll give you an example. The development of the port of Kisumu, the discussion about the neglect of that port for the longest time is not really taking any center stage. What is taking center stage is how the people of Luo Nyanza have now benefited from a port. So it's not even a national project. It is a port that has been given to Nyanza. Okay? It is how many things are perceived. If the thicker superhighway is built, no one understands or sees that, this road will take you up to Ethiopia and beyond. It is the Kikuyus who are given a road. Yes.
And that is true.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's with that thinking that I'm saying that the president will think beyond just his own interests, but he'll also tie it in with the perception that he believes that as part of his legacy, his people must see him as somebody who left them with something beneficial.
Which is fine, but it's his interest nevertheless, because he wants to be seen by his people that he did A, B, C, D for them. He needs Raila right now, because out of all the opposition leaders, Raila is perceived as being the strongest. Well, for one, because he is in the handshake, and they are not. Let's just start there. Plus other things that are historical. Yeah, so he will definitely work with those people whom he perceives will push his interests forward. So it still comes back to his interest, and he will play with whoever he needs to play with, and place his cards accordingly, so that he promotes himself even more.
Interest, whether it's from a leader's point of view or from a national point of view, that if it's an interest that's being pursued, all these other things that come as a result are just benefits of the pushing of this particular interest. Your people will get some kind of development here and there, but it really is about your interest.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Amani.
That's how politicians think. Thank you, guys. Have a blessed day.
You too. Anthony in Mombasa, good morning.
Morning, Station Room.
Good morning.
If you want to know the direction of the hunter, watch the attack dogs. You'll know what he's hunting. Uhuru attack dogs started saying,
Anthony, where's that proverb
he's
from?
too young to retire.
Sorry, but please continue.
You see, they started saying, he's too young to retire. That is a sign of things happening. What you say today, Eric, I tend to concur with you. The only thing is, it is not a conspiracy. It's the reality. What is happening on the ground, everyone can see who has eyes, except some people who tend to they want to pretend they are blind, they cannot see. Uhuru has lost it. He's tried to salvage whatever is left of it by leaving someone in power whom he and his clique of friends can control. And it is a reality that during their the first term with Ruto, some things were happening and they were going in the right direction. The country was going in the right direction.
Really?
When the handshake came in, yes, it was. To me, I believe it was.
Okay.
I believe it was.
Yeah.
And when the handshake came in, things turned haywire. We cannot really blame Ruto for what is happening in the government now, since we know he's just there as a name, the DP. But actually, we know his work, whatever he's supposed to do, he's not doing it.
Okay.
He's been denied the right of doing it.
Thank you,
he has
Anthony.
realized that there's betrayal somewhere, so he has to package himself in a way so that the people can accept him.
Anthony,
And
thank you.
and that's why he's doing what he's doing.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Asante sana. Coming to the end of the show. Dr. Mike, I see you had called, but running out of time. This one, until next year, like you say, things will change. You will see movements here and there and all. I'm waiting just to be proven wrong.
And just as Jeffrey Archer says, it's only time that will tell.
Only time will tell. So, let's talk about the leopards.
Well, let's talk about blame. Do not blame God for creating the leopard. Just thank him for not giving it wings.
Okay, so this is an Ethiopian proverb. That's what they said.
That's what they said.
Okay.
And I disputed it.
The Ethiopians had said tiger.
The Ethiopians had said tiger. Asante sana for tuning into the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow, first Friday of the week, the 12th day of August 2021. We'll be here from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., but you have more programming coming on throughout the day. Music and programming. Lovely day. So who's coming at 11? Yolanda and DJ Absolute.
Yes.
They are Sugar and Spice. Right. That is coming up at 11. Between now and then, some lovely music. Have a lovely day. It's 10 o'clock.